The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Tonight is a bittersweet night. It felt like saying goodbye to a family member or friend with a terminal illness that you knew was going to pass on and transition, but it still doesn't prepare you for when it actually happens. I knew this was going to happen eventually. Could have happened last week. It could have happened next month. It could have happened 2 months after the draft. It could have happened at any point. He could have stayed here for the next 2 seasons and then moved on after that. But at some point, Sam Howell was going to go elsewhere and continue his NFL journey. And I think it's a bright future. I've already said that. I think the guy can play, obviously. And so I was mentally preparing myself for Sam to not be here. But the finality of it today was somewhat gut-wrenching. I got with my guy, Joe Rockhead, on socials, and we got our Brian McKnight on. We had our one last cry together. And then I was like, okay, we're good. We can move on. And you know what takes a little bit of the sting away, takes a little bit of that edge off? Those damn picks. That cleans the shit up real quick, doesn't it? Like, oh man, this hurts. We got what? Oh, all of a sudden, my shoulder feels a lot better, right? Feels like I got hit in the shoulder, and then all of a sudden I realized what was going on, and I'm like, we got what? So someone had asked me, I want to say it was last night, it might have been the night before. What kind of compensation you think we can get for Sam? And I told him, we've been hearing around the league that Sam could fetch a third. I said, it's lion season. I'm not buying it. I don't believe you. You need more people. I'm not buying it. And so I was like, nah. I said, the most you'll probably get for Sam is a fourth. But should injuries occur, should, a team find themselves in dire straits, who knows? Maybe you can command a third for him. Then I read a tweet from Nikki Javala today that quoted Seattle Seahawks general manager John Schneider, in which he said, and let me pull it up and I'll read it to you. I don't want to paraphrase when I can just read you the tweet. And the tweet reads, and this was on a Seattle Sports interview he did today after the trade. Quote, we were sweating that out. There were several teams involved with it. We were really excited to be able to acquire him. Closed quote. So it's funny because, all kinds of Eagles fans and Giants fans and everybody coming out of the woodworks to make fun of NHO being dead, which it was dead a long time ago. I put NHO to rest in like week 14, maybe 15, somewhere in there. I think it was the Jets game that I pronounced it dead. There was no coming back after the Jets game. That was the final nail in the coffin. He had to play against San Francisco because Jacoby Brissett mysteriously had a calf injury or whatever, tight hamstring or some bullshit. So it was put to rest a long time ago. But we knew the talent that Sam Howell possessed. It's not surprising. And right now I'm speaking to the numbskulls of the fans of other teams that thought that Sam was trash, and they still think he is trash, and that's fine. But teams aren't fighting over trash quarterbacks. The Bears can't even find a trade partner for Justin Fields right now, yet we had teams fighting over the right to trade for Sam Howell. One, I get it, the price, in terms of how much you're going to pay Sam over the next 2 years versus how much you'd have to pay Justin Fields. Totally get it. That's fair. But if he sucked, if Sam Howell were Daniel Jones, do you think he would have fetched a third-round pick today? Essentially, a late third-round pick? I'm just asking for a friend. You think if he was Cooper Rush, he would have fetched a late third-round pick? No matter how much money he's making over the next 2 years. So miss me with the old narrative that Sam Howell sucks. Clearly, teams around the league see the talent. And I know Seattle knows because he went into Seattle and he blessed those boys. And if not for a faulty, shoddy-ass defense and a poor coaching staff, probably walks out of Seattle with a dub. John Schneider and company saw just how good Sam Howell was up close and personal. Just like the Denver Broncos probably did. And I wouldn't be surprised if those teams that Schneider was talking about, I wouldn't be shocked if the Denver Broncos were one of them. Because he went into Mile High in week 2 and blessed those boys. You don't think these teams see the talent when that guy comes to town and holds it down? You don't think they see that? I know the Seahawks saw it, clearly. I know the Broncos saw it. And there are other teams around the league that probably saw it too. And that's why there were multiple suitors for Sam Howell's services. Not just because he's a relatively cheap backup option for the next 2 seasons. The kid can play. Unfortunately for him, his time ran out here. That's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the business. He didn't get it done last season. And look, we can sit here and have a pity party for him. And we can talk about Eric Bieniemy. I've done that already. That horse has long been dead. We beat the shit out of that horse. He stopped moving in week 14 after the Giants game. Okay? We beat that horse to death. He's not moving anymore, so we don't need to do that anymore. We know why. One of the reasons why. A big reason why it didn't work here. But Sam was to blame too. He's not blameless in this situation. At the end of the day, today, definitive statements were made by the Washington Commanders general manager, Adam Peters, or as I like to refer to him as Chef P, cooking up crack. Let him cook. Let him cook. I didn't think there was any way possible. Let me go ahead and offer up a 0-0 right now because I thought it was no way you were getting a day 2 pick for Sam Howell. A 4th rounder, no questions asked. We finagled and finessed a 3rd round pick out of a kid who has 18 starts to his ledger. That if you ask most fans around the league who weren't paying attention, oh, that guy stinks. If he stinks so bad, how did we get a 3rd round pick? John Schneider isn't some wet behind the ears general manager. His ass didn't wake up yesterday. He's a veteran, savvy GM in this league that knows ball, and he swapped picks with us and essentially slid us another 3rd round selection for the right to have Sam Howell for the next 2 years, who could potentially be the future quarterback in Seattle. I don't see him beating out Geno Smith, however. I don't. I see him more as a replacement for them losing Drew Lock, right? They needed a guy that they could, and Drew Lock, just like he did last year, came in in 2 weeks, came in, won a game, and had them in another game the following week. I think it was against Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. Had them in that ball game, right? Beat the Eagles on a Monday night and had them in the ball game the next week. And that's what they're bringing Sam Howell in there to do, is to be the backup to Geno Smith. But should Geno start tripping, should Geno get injured and Sam gets out there and starts balling, they could have their quarterback of the future. Not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. And the man can play. We'll see. But again, I'm not looking to elicit, and evoke emotion out of the Sam stands out there, right? They're already hurting right now. They're already searching for answers. What is Adam Peters doing? I can't believe he did that. You just didn't want to listen, right? I've been through a lot of different things in my life. And there have been instances where red flags were there, stop signs, red lights, all of the above, all of the bells and whistles are going off, and I ignored them. And you know what that normally does? It gets you into trouble. And a lot of you didn't want to hear what was being said about Sam Howell because you, in your mind, created an ecosystem where Sam Howell was blameless in the fiasco that was the 2023 NFL season for the Washington Commanders. It's all Eric Bieniemy's fault. It's all Ronald Rivera's fault. All this defense is atrocious. Man, this kid can play. Yes, he can play. But let's not act like Sam didn't go out there and throw about 4 or 5 pick sixes. Let's not act like he didn't fumble another one that was scooped and scored in week 1. Let's not act like Sam let the voices of the outside noise and the coaching staffs, members telling him, don't take a sack, don't take a sack, don't take a sack. Don't act as if he didn't let that penetrate his brain and change the way that he was playing the quarterback position fundamentally, because it happened. And I knew it was going to happen. I saw it happening before my very eyes. And the very thing that I was guarding against happened, and he turned into a totally different quarterback, not like the one we had saw for the first 10 weeks of the season. And when things started to go downhill, he couldn't stop it. And this team had checked out mentally, so he wasn't going to be able to stop it anyway. We had no talent on the defensive side of the football. We couldn't get to the other team's quarterback. They had already mailed it in. Guys weren't playing for each other. They were playing for self at that point. Guys were looking towards the end of the season. They were ready for change. F.A. Obata has already spoken to the media, and he said, look, I know you guys aren't in the building right now, but it's different in here. It's a different vibe. The energy is different. It feels different in here. I know you guys can feel it through the damn monitor. It was a shit show last year. And unfortunately, Sam got caught up in it. But you still needed to be able to see the warning signs that Sam wasn't going to be the quarterback here long term. And you needed to come to grips with that, and you couldn't. For whatever reason, you refused to. That's okay. I'm not here to beat you up. What I'm here to do is to celebrate the fact that we got some excellent capital for Sam Howell, a guy that wasn't going to be the future here in Washington. You should be excited that our general manager had the foresight, unlike the last group and the group before that, when we could have gotten a first-round pick, number 2 overall for Kirk Cousins, and because they were bullheaded, stubborn, and didn't want to help out Kyle Shanahan, we didn't trade Kirk Cousins when we could have instead got a damn 3rd-round compensatory pick. You should be excited that we just got a 3rd-round compensatory pick for Sam Howell without having to wait for him to leave in free agency 2 years down the road, hope that he gets paid by somebody, and then get the benefit of that. We took 17 games, 18 total, but 17 games of last season, and we flipped that. The same shit I was trying to do, but the dum-dums last year with Jacoby Brissett didn't want to do it. They took 17 games of Sam Howell and flipped it for a late 3rd-round pick. You can't be mad at that. As much as I love NHL, you can't be mad at that. You gotta love it. You got to love it. And so as much as it pains me to let the young bull go, I know in order for him to spread his wings and fly away and become the quarterback that I know he can be, he's got to go somewhere else. And that's a damn good place to go because there's talent all around him in Seattle. There's talent oozing out of every nook and cranny of that offense. And it's a much better offensive line than the crap we put in front of him last year. That's for damn sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Seattle, whether he gets the opportunity this year or next year or whenever. I'll be keeping my third eye on Sam Howell, as I think a lot of fans here will as well. Let's just pray that the number 2 overall pick is a success way beyond our wildest dreams and imagination, and we don't have to look over our shoulder at Sam Howell wondering what if, right? Let's just hope, because that's what's going to happen ultimately, is we're going to look at, especially with the Sam stands out there, they're going to compare whomever we take it to whatever success or non-success Sam is having elsewhere, whether it's in Seattle or somewhere else. And if Sam goes to Seattle and he blows up, and meanwhile we're over here struggling with the number 2 overall pick, whomever that guy is, and I'm here to tell you, I know who that guy is now. And so do you. You may not want to admit it, just like some of you didn't want to admit it was Samuel Howell who was going to be out of here. But we know who the number 2 overall pick is now, or at least I do. I'm going to share that with you tonight. I'm drawing inferences. You know what I do. You know how I do it. Anyway, I'll tell you this much. Sam Howell was a good soldier last year. He was put in a damn near impossible situation. I don't give a shit who the quarterback was. If that was Patrick Mahomes, we would have destroyed Patrick Mahomes last year. Okay. No quarterback was coming out of the situation that Sam Howell was put in last year out clean and alive and thriving. Nobody. We saw what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when 3/5 of his offensive line were down with injuries and he couldn't be protected. We saw what happened. He didn't even score 10 points in that game. Harassed, sacked. He looked awful. That's what we did to Sam essentially for 17 games last year. But that's no here nor there. At the end of the day, let's talk about the trade. I've talked enough about Sam. I bid a farewell to Sam Howell, my guy, NHO. You know how it goes. He was my guy. He's always going to be my guy. And we shared some times together, man. And just one more for the road, man. One more for old time's sake.
New Howell order. New Howell order. New Howell order. New Howell order.
It's like a 10. That's like a 10 bell salute when we lose a boxer, right? Just a moment of silence, right? Bing! Bing! Let's just get a couple of NHOs out of the way, man. All right. So let's take a look at the deal, right? Let's take a look at all of the particulars of what actually transpired today with this deal. Talk about what actually took place and what our situation in the draft now looks like after all. And I think another occurrence happened. Your hair looks nice. Another occurrence happened 2 days ago that slipped under the radar for most of you. I'll explain that here in a second. I think a lot of you are well aware because you guys are all over this stuff. But for those of you who aren't, I'll explain that here in a second too. So here are the particulars of the trade today with Sam Howell and the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. So Washington sent Sam Howell 2024 4th round pick, which was 102. So remember, I kept saying, everybody keeps saying we got 5 picks in the top 100. I kept saying we got 6 picks in the top 102 or 3. I couldn't remember if it was 102 or 103. So it was 102. So we had 6 picks in the first 102 picks. And that was always my angle. Like, everybody keeps saying, yo, they got 5 picks in the top 100. No, F that. Soon as the next day starts, we got the 2nd pick, right? Or, yeah, the 2nd pick in round 4. So we got 6 picks in the first 102. Well, that 102nd pick overall in the 4th round, that first pick in the 4th round, or the only pick we had in the 4th round, we shipped that off to Seattle. We also shipped off a 6th rounder in 2024 as well, 179th overall. Now, the way this works out is they call this a pick swap, right? So you're swapping picks. So look at it not from the totality of the trade of Sam, a 4th and a 6th. Look at it from the spectrum of, all right, we sent Sam, and then the 3rd rounder from Seattle that we received, 78th overall, is a swap of 102. So we had the 102nd pick in the 4th round, right? Overall. They had the 78th pick in the 3rd round. So we swapped those picks. So now we get 78, they get 102, right? So essentially they moved backwards 24 picks, right? So then the other swap is from a 5th rounder to a 6th rounder. We had a 6th rounder at 179. They had a 5th rounder at 152. We swapped those 2 picks. So essentially, we moved up 27 spots. So in totality, they got Sam Howell, and we got to move up, 51 spots in the draft combination of 2 separate picks. But really, the real prize of this deal for Seattle, it's Sam Howell. For us, it's getting that additional 3rd round pick. That's the real prize of this move, is now you have 3 picks in the 3rd round. What? Wait a minute. Zoinks! Scoob! Hey, go get me an apron. I'm about to be a shoe chef. I'm about to be a shoe chef under Adam Peters, because I want to see what he's doing in the kitchen. Shoe chef Louu, coming to the rescue. What you want me to do? Give me an apron. Give me a cap. I'm ready to cook. Show me how to do it. That's beautiful, right? So now, with that said, let's look at what the Commanders have at their disposal heading into the 2024 NFL Draft. This shit is beautiful, right? So, of course, we got a 1st round pick, number 2 overall. We have 2 2nd round picks. We knew about that, 36 and 40. Now we have 3. We had 2. All right, we had 67 and originally 99. So remember, the 99th pick was from the Chase Young trade with the 49ers, which was a compensatory pick. People were complaining and squalling. Oh, I can't believe they gave away Chase. I said, man, we stole from them boys. Adam Peters might have known what he was doing. That almost felt like he was smuggling in drugs to the country. Like, he already knew, hey, I'm going to slide them this compensatory pick. I'm going to catch up with that pick later, right? That's some Jedi. That's some old Obi-Wan Kenobi bullshit. I'm feeling the Force. However, I know that you guys see that that's 100 now. That pick is no longer 99, it's 100. So the NFL sent out its list of compensatory picks about, I'd say, 5 days ago or so, roughly. It might have been Monday. We didn't get any. It might have been last week, Friday, some last week, Thursday, something like that. They sent out the compensatory picks. We didn't get any. They omitted one, though, or they changed one. So the math, these crazy mathematical equations that net you compensatory picks. Well, one of the equations was a little off. The math was off for Cincinnati. The Bengals, they were awarded 2 6-round compensatory picks. What the NFL ultimately did was they combined those 2 6-rounders and made it into a third. There was an error somewhere in there in the equation, and it should have netted Cincinnati a 3rd-round compensatory pick, not 2 6s. So they went back, amended it, and adjusted it, and their compensatory pick went ahead of Washington's. So it pushed Washington back from 99 to 100. Okay, so I know a lot of y'all might not have seen that. That might have gone under the radar for you, but that's how they ended up with the 100th pick instead of it being 99. But they had 67, they had 99, it's now 100, and now with this trade, they have 78 as well. So there's so much you can do here, right? Now they don't have a 4th-round pick. Obviously, we just traded that to Seattle. So there's no 4th-round picks, which you don't care about at this point because you got 3 in the 3rd, right? And there still could be something done about that. You could easily trade back if you like, whatever, right? Possibilities are endless with what we have at our disposal. You have 2 in the 5th, right? Because you had a 5th-rounder, and then you just acquired one from Seattle. Same thing in the 6th round that happened in the 4th round. You swapped your 6th-round pick with their 5th, so you don't have a 6th-round pick now. That goes to Seattle. And then you have your 7th-round pick to wrap up your draft. So if you're Washington, there's a number of things that I take away from this deal. All right. This is some pretty high-level shit that just took place today. So now we're gonna talk about some definitive statements that have been made today by Adam Peters. And it's me, I'm not the kind of guy that takes one occurrence and turns it into this is what this means. I need multiple things to happen in order for me to then draw an inference. There needs to be a pattern, a breadcrumb trail of sorts for me to follow, for me to go, okay, I see what's happening here. I have all of my breadcrumbs. I have my pattern. I've connected the dots. We're going to discuss tonight. But before we do, put a pin in that. Let's talk about some other signings that took place today. Also, we heard from just about every single free agent that has been signed by Washington to this point, with the exception of Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler Jr., I think are the only 2 that we didn't hear from. I'm pretty sure we heard from just about everybody else today. And I'll give you a quick tidbit from everything that was said, or at least what I gained from all of the guys that spoke. And I'll tell you how I felt about what was said. So also, real quick, because I will forget, and I don't want to forget this because it's not a big deal, but it is worth mentioning. You're starting to see some Commanders find, homes now, right? So Curtis Samuel signed a 3-year, $24 million deal, I believe, to go to the Bucs. It is a great spot for him. He's going to be fantastic for the Bills with Josh Allen. I couldn't put him in a better spot. They need another guy in that offense. They lost Gabe Davis, and Curtis has shown the ability to be like a legit number 2 option in an offense. He's shown that here in Washington. He can be a number 2 if you need him to be. And so I really like him as a 3rd option. But I think if, you look at what Buffalo has with Stephon Diggs, they got, guys like Khalil Shakir and guys like that. But to me, Curtis is going to go in there and be their number 2. I really would love it if they had another guy. If Gabe Davis was still there and he was looked at as the 3rd option, that would have been phenomenal. But it is what it is. such is life. That's a great place for him to go. Same can be said for Kendall Fuller. They moved on from one veteran corner in Xavier Howard, and they pick up another guy that is a veteran corner who can make plays on the football, who's going to help them in Kendall Fuller. He went to the Dolphins on a 2-year, like $16 million deal, I believe. So the kind of money that made you go, y'all didn't want to do that. They didn't want to do that. Clearly, they didn't want to do that, which is fine, right? And I've talked about this. That knee injury that he sustained at Virginia Tech and him having to have vet rest days might have played a part in that, because the play on the field suggests he's capable of fitting into their scheme. But his age, that knee injury, and, him needing vet rest days, clearly his best football may be behind him. They don't want to wait to find out. I'm not mad at that. And Sadiq Charles signed a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. And so good for Sadiq. We're starting to see Commanders find work elsewhere. Good to see guys finding work. One name that was not mentioned and is still missing in action right now is Cam Curl. Eventually, he'll find a home. The longer this thing drags out, the more likely it is he's going to find himself signing a 1-year deal to prove it, which is not where you want to be, honestly. Look how that worked out for CJ Gardner-Johnson. It didn't work out very well for him at all. Now, luckily enough for him, his ties to Philadelphia led him back to where he was at his best and got him paid, the money that he probably turned down a season ago. Was in no position to turn it down this year. Good for him getting his money, but betting on yourself on a 1-year deal when you thought you were going to be able to get a multi-year contract, it's a lot different than Jeremy Chin's 1-year deal here. He's coming off of a down season where he didn't play a lot, where he was phased out of the defense. So he didn't have a choice but to take a 1-year deal. He wasn't coming off of a good season. Cam Curl was coming off of one of his typical seasons here in Washington. Didn't create any turnovers, but around the football in terms of getting guys on the ground, solid defender. What did he miss the first? Did he even miss any games this year? I think I'm thinking about the season prior where he missed some of the early action, came back against the Eagles in week, 3? Yeah, that was the season prior with Carson Wentz. So I don't think he missed any time this year, if I'm not mistaken. So he started out the season, I think, with like something wrong with his hand, but he played through it. I think I could be mixing up my seasons, but he in his mind, he thought he was playing himself into a multi-year deal, and it's starting to look like he's going to have to sign up for a 1-year prove it special. But we'll see. Again, not our problem anymore. So we re-signed F.A. Obata. And I like F.A. And I've told you guys this. F.A. was my favorite reserve defensive end on the roster the last 2 seasons. Liked him better than James Smith-Williams, Casey Toohill. I've always liked F.A.'s energy. I've always liked his physicality. I've liked his versatility because F.A. was one of those guys that could kick inside and be reduced to a 3-tech and rush from that spot and get pressure on the quarterback. So F.A. provides you with a lot of versatility. We know Dan Quinn likes that kind of versatility. Hence, Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that kicked inside and would rush on that Dallas defensive line when they would put all those talented rushers on the field at the same time. And we know Dorrance Armstrong isn't 290 pounds or 80 pounds. I don't even think Dorrance Armstrong, he might be 270. I don't even think he's 270. I think he's in the 260 range. So for him to kick inside and play defensive tackle, obvious passing situations only, but still speaks to the ability to be versatile and what that means for a Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. type of scheme. And F.A. fits that to a T. And so I hated when he got injured last year because to me, he was the last line of defense in terms of getting to the quarterback. Like he was my last hope. When we traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat, the only guy that I looked at and said, hey, man, if you don't get there, we ain't getting there, bro, it was F.A. And when he got hurt early in that Giants game, that second Giants game, well, there goes any shot of getting to the quarterback now, right? So I'm glad he's back. I'm glad to see F.A. Coming back. And I think now with F.A. returning, I'm all but assured. Like I told you, we got some definitive statements today, right? We got some definitive statements made today. All right. The first declaration, we're not drafting the defensive end in the 2024 NFL draft. Because if you draft a guy sooner than the 5th or 6th round, you're not going to have anywhere to stash him unless you're going to cut one of these guys you've signed. I'm not even thinking about KJ Henry and Andre Jones Jr. anymore. Those dudes are as good as gone in my mind, unless like KJ Henry comes back and he turns into the Incredible Hulk and he's out here tossing dudes around and making his presence felt. If he's the same KJ Henry we just saw last season, bro ain't making his team. Now, he might end up on the practice squad, you know, and he's one call away. But they signed 4 defensive ends. We had none. They signed 4. Like, and I get it. 3 of them are probably on 1-year deals. But if you go out and draft a defensive end and you already signed 4 dudes and we expect all 4 of them to make the roster, you could have a 5th defensive end. Then that would mean KJ Henry, Andre Jones, not welcome here. So I would think that drafting an edge rusher would be still a priority. But when you got 4 of them already, I was cool when you had 3 and you were going to add 1 more and that 4th guy would be the rookie. When you got 4 already and you're adding another guy and the 5th guy is the rookie, that's a pretty tough, bitter pill to swallow. Now, I will say, again, it's F.A., it's Cleveland Farrell. Those guys don't have to make the roster. So I won't say it's impossible that they draft a defensive end. I say it's highly unlikely that they draft one early. Unless somebody falls down the board. Which takes me to my next declaration that was made today. I think Adam Peters is positioning himself. A lot of people who, and again, we lost one crowd today. We lost the Sam Howell stands crowd today because they were holding on for dear life and trying to create scenarios in which we trade back. We lost that crowd today. We don't have to worry about them anymore. But you know who got louder? They might have even gained some of the Sam stands. That you know who got a lot louder today? The trade up to Caleb Williams, #1 stands. Those guys got real loud today. Yep. We traded up as if we control any goddamn thing. They frustrate me because their heads are so thick. Their skulls are extremely thick. And it's almost as if they don't understand the concept of we don't control. It's not like Chicago said, go get me some more picks and then come back and talk to me. That's not what the conversation has been. It's not like Chicago said that ain't enough. Like Smokey's mom. Chicago's like, bro, we not trading the pick. And they like, yes, you are. You're going to trade the pick because we're going to go get more picks. We're going to get more ammo. You can't say no. Yes, we can. And we will. We're drafting Caleb Williams. We're just trying to find somebody to take Justin Fields off our hands. And I think it's going to be the Raiders. But we'll see. Somebody's going to take Justin Fields off their hands. But what I do think Adam Peters has done is he's positioned himself to package up picks to move up. I would not be shocked if we see Adam Peters mosey his way back into the first round and to acquire one of those 2 tackles that I think we probably are drafting this year. I would not be shocked in the least to see him package up a second and one of those 3 thirds to get back into the first to get a tackle. I wouldn't be shocked. So I'm going to make the declaration tonight that that's what's going to occur. Now, again, that's subject to change based on how the board plays out. Because if those tackles go quickly and teams that need tackles aren't willing to move, but rather take the tackle that's right there in their face, Washington could be stuck and they just have to make the selection, where they are. But if a tackle that they really like is sitting there, and I'm eyeballing a couple of dudes that I know good and well aren't going to be there, but I'm just hoping one of them. I'm making up shit. Hey, he too short. His arms ain't long enough. You don't want him. Leave him. Go get the guy with little to no experience as a starter, but he's tall. He's got a great frame. Go get him, Amarius Mims. Go get him. Leave Troy Fatanu alone. That's what I'm screaming. Let him fall. Let him fall. It ain't going to happen. He's going to go relatively quickly, but somebody's going to fall. And if someone does, in the event that someone does, I think Adam Peters is going to be ready to strike. I'll tell you this. If he doesn't trade up into the first, he's got ammo to trade up again into the second, because he could take 2 of those 3 thirds and trade back into the second. And so, again, he's got so much flexibility to move all around the first 3 rounds of this draft. He can do whatever he likes. He could do whatever he likes. Yeah, in the first 3 rounds. I mean, he really, truly can. Because he can get to, we have the 67th pick, I believe, in the third round. And we can get to 70, and he could trade up with that 78th pick we just got from Seattle. You can trade that one, trade one of the 5th rounders that we have. We got 2 of them, and move up 8 spots. Right? I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, right? Those first 3 rounds, he can do whatever he wants to do. He can move wherever he wants to go. He wants to get back into the first round, he can. He wants to get back into the second round again, he can. He wants to move up in the second round. I don't know how much further you can go up, but let's say there's a player that doesn't go in the first round. They got a first round grade on him. He's sitting there as the second round gets underway. We know a lot of trades take place at the top of the second round because teams have a chance to sleep on it. Teams have a chance to contact the teams that are at the top of the second round. Hey, we'd love to come up and get this guy. What's it going to take, right? Conversations are had overnight. That's how deals get done and are consummated. Washington is in a position where they want to. They could package up 40. They could package up a third and go up to 34, right? They could package up 36 if need be, and 100, and get all the way up to 33, or 40 and 100, whatever, right? Whatever the chart says is good value. They can do that. They're in a position to do that. So I think the first goal is to get the tackle. And what's abundantly clear right now is they don't love any of the tackles that are on the market. None. Finito. Zilch. Zip. Zero. Because they've been real stingy with the dinero when it comes to the tackle position. Might get you a guard or center, but that about it. If they wanted a tackle, and I'm not saying they're not going to get one in free agency, but if they wanted one bad enough, they would have done it already. They would have moved already. Clearly, that's not the case. So what that tells me is in a deep tackle draft class, our GM is going to be aggressive. And if that means going back into the first round after selecting your quarterback, that's what that means. But he's going to do it. That's another declaration. We signed a special teams player today. And I told you, I said, I expect another linebacker to be signed, but nobody that is going to be on your radar. It's going to be a special teams guy. The guy that I kept chirping about was Oren Burks. They signed Anthony Pittman, core special teamer from Detroit. See the connection there? Lance Newmark, our assistant general manager, has ties to Detroit, knows Anthony Pittman intimately, knows his game, knows he's one of the best special teams or better special teams players in the NFL. Hence, he's now here in Washington. I told you that we're going to revamp the special teams. You're going to add in some backers. You're going to add in some corners and guys that naturally are your core special teamers, your gunners, things of that nature. Like, you can forget about SIP, right? Christian Holmes. He's out of here, right? Like, all of those dudes that were here in the past, those guys are going to be replaced. And it may not be all at once, but for the most part, if they can help it. If it comes down to Christian Holmes, who's the 7th round pick, and an undrafted guy that they like, they're going to give it to the undrafted guy that they like because they didn't draft Christian Holmes. So a lot of those back end of the roster, core special team guys, they're going to be out of here too, more likely than not. All it takes is for one guy that they like, whether it's in the 7th round or it's an undrafted guy that they sign after the draft is over, as a priority free agent. Christian Holmes and, all of those dudes on the back end of the roster, the Castro Fields, get your ass out of here. Those dudes are done. So it's going to be interesting to see. But we just added another backer. We've paid more attention, we've given more TLC, tender love and care. Tender love, love so tender. We gave so much tender love and care to the linebacker position, more in 4 days than Rivera and company did in 4 years. How is that possible? Because Chef P cooking. That's why. So we added another backer. We added another defensive end. This furthers home the point that I'm going to make that I made yesterday that I'm going to hammer home yet again, which is we've spent just about all the resources in free agency on what side of the ball? I said yesterday that it's leading me to believe that a lot of the resources in the draft are going to be spent on the offensive side of the ball. If you think about it, it's deep at both defensive line and offensive line. But in the draft, the two deepest positions are offensive tackle and wide receiver. So if you're looking for offensive help, and we could probably use a running back, another tight end, another receiver. With this Sam Howell trade, another declaration I'm going to make, we are drafting a quarterback in this draft. Adam Peters was a part of a unit in San Francisco where they routinely drafted late round quarterbacks that fit Kyle Shanahan's system. And so it was nothing for them to draft CJ Beathard, for them to go out and get, what was the guy, Nick Mullins, right? That's how they ended up with Brock Purdy. They didn't envision Brock Purdy turning into what he turned into. They just looked at him as another option as a backup quarterback that'll get them, by if Trey Lance gets injured or gets nicked. They didn't know he was going to turn into a quarterback that almost led them to a Super Bowl. But that's because they constantly took swings at the back end of the draft at the quarterback position. Instead of paying a backup to come in there, which they had to do last year. Why? Because their backup that they took a swing at last year or 2 years ago turned into Brock Purdy. So they had to sign Sam Darnold because the guy that was supposed to be in that role, which was Brock Purdy, was their starter. But normally with the 49ers, they've already got one of those guys because they always keep a backup stocked and ready to go. Adam Peters, to me, has adopted that mentality. You have that 1 year quarterback in there in Marcus Mariota that helped the second overall pick and to help him with the rigors of the NFL, how to watch film, how to prepare your body, how to be mentally engaged, how to take care of the weight room, etc., etc. What time you should get in, what time you should be leaving the facility. All of those things, right? And you'll have a rookie, another rookie, more likely than not, I think, also in the mix. Now, I want to know, I'm pretty sure Adam Peters had a discussion with Kyle Shanahan on that dynamic. Because if you recall, back in 2012, Robert Griffin III was the second overall pick, and then they took a rookie in the 4th round in Kirk Cousins, and we saw how that went. Robert couldn't handle that, right? Maybe 4th round was a little too close. He felt a little threatened. He shouldn't have. They spent the number 2 overall pick. They gave up 2 first-round picks for you, essentially, and swapped another. They weren't going to, move on from you. You were always the guy, but in his mind, it was a threat, either real or perceived. I'm wondering if he had a conversation with Kyle about how that went, and is that a good idea to have 2 rookie quarterbacks in the same season? Again, there's still a quarterback in between those two that's going to help mentor both of them. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't be shocked. I'll just say that. I wouldn't be shocked. I find it highly unlikely we go into the season with 2 quarterbacks. I think they're going to draft 2 quarterbacks in addition to having Marcus Mariota on the roster. So, I want to play a clip for you real quick because I have another declaration for you. I'm going to play a clip for you. This was from that scrum that I talked about yesterday that I had the opportunity to watch that happened at the combine, and I had somehow missed it. He had the, official press conference, and then there was a media scrum. Both he and Dan Quinn had both a presser and then a media scrum afterwards. There's a clip that I talked about and I referenced yesterday. This is the biggest declaration that I'm going to make tonight. I want you to listen to this very closely, and you may not get the same things out of this that I got, but it's just a piece of the puzzle. Take a listen. We'll discuss it when we come back on the other side. Take a listen to these 2 questions and the responses to those questions from our general manager, Adam Peters. Take a listen.
Must have traits that you look for in quarterbacks.
Yeah. Do you want to know those?
Yeah.
So, I think there's a ton. It's kind of like when you're looking for a head coach where you have so many different traits and a lot of them blend into each other. And so, but you're looking for, the face of your franchise, one, and how they do that. Doesn't need to be a big rah-rah guy, doesn't need to be a big vocal guy, but lead by example, but just be a leader and carry yourself the right way. Obviously all the talent you want, especially now, if you have a mobile quarterback, that certainly helps, but you have to be able to play the position first. I think that's first and foremost. You have to be able to play the position before you can look into all the different things in terms of being mobile and all that.
How much maybe has that changed since you started as a scout with the Pats and Brady playing at such a high level to kind of what quarterbacking is now, Lamar, Mahomes, I mean, all these guys, it's shifted.
Yeah, the game shifted a lot. I think you think college football for a lot of that. When I was starting, I think in New England they had just traded Drew Bledsoe, and Drew Bledsoe was the prototype, and then Tom, obviously. And it's evolved a little bit, and there's a place for any type of quarterback as long, like Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback, but he's not a mobile guy. But then Lamar is like a whole different set of problems, and so there's a lot of different ways to play quarterback very effectively. I do think you do have a few more options if you're mobile, but that's certainly not an absolute by any means.
So in that little exchange there, he talked about the qualities that he's looking for in a quarterback. And nothing there is a real differentiator, right? There's nothing there that screams one quarterback or the other. Then he talked about playing the position. And he talked about mobility being cool, but you got to be able to play the position. So you hear that. And he didn't sound like he was all that hell-bent on grabbing a guy with wheels. That sounds like more of a Dan Quinn thing, right? Dan Quinn, because he's coming at it from a defensive coordinator perspective. Like, what's harder to defend? The stationary quarterback in the pocket or the guy that can hurt you on 3rd and 7 when all fails and everything breaks down and he takes the hell off? In Dan Quinn's mind, I'd rather have to deal with Mac Jones, which neither one of these dudes are Mac Jones, by the way. But I'd rather have to deal with Mac Jones, and who wouldn't, than Lamar Jackson. Or I'd rather have to deal with Daniel Jones than Lamar Jackson, which, again, who wouldn't, right? Daniel Jones can run, but he's not hurting you like that with his legs. He's more of a guy that wants to do his damage from the pocket, right? So he's like, you got to be able to play the position, meaning you got to be able to play from the pocket. And you got to think about Adam Peters' background. Started out as a scout for the Patriots. He was there in the prime, like literally in the infant stages of Brady, when they were building that dynasty into what it ultimately became. He then moves on to Denver and gets late career Peyton Manning when they win the Super Bowl in 2015. So he's seen quarterbacks that can move, but really their damage is done from the pocket. And really Peyton and Tom really couldn't move any damn where. They could move within the pocket. And I think he's also somewhat jaded by swings and misses at mobile quarterbacks. Remember, he was part of that Denver Broncos brass that traded up for Paxton Lynch, a mobile quarterback with traits that never took and was awful in the NFL. He was a part of the brass in San Francisco that traded up for Trey Lance. Obviously, for different reasons, and I don't think it's as big of an indictment, the Trey Lance decision and ultimate trade up is as big of an indictment as the Paxton Lynch one is, because we don't even know if Trey Lance can play in this league or not. Really, the injuries beset him and took his opportunities away, and it gave an opportunity to another player, and he never got his job back. So hard to say that the Trey Lance decision was a bad one. It just didn't work out in San Francisco. Same thing with Sam Howell, right? I'm not saying Sam Howell can't play. It just didn't work out here. That doesn't mean he won't go elsewhere and have himself a hell of a career. We've seen guys do it all the time. Brett Favre is a great example of a guy that started out one place, went somewhere else, got an opportunity. The rest is history. Rich Gannon bounced around the league a little bit and then ultimately became league MVP and took the Raiders to the Super Bowl. Lost, but it's, again, had that career revitalization elsewhere. We've seen so many quarterbacks do that. So who's to say what happens with Trey Lance? But both of those guys' biggest attribute was their legs, wheels. I think you combine having the success he had in New England with Brady, having the success that they saw happen in Denver with Manning, and then the lack of success with Trey Lance and Paxton Lynch. Trent Green is another one. Thank you. I didn't get to see who said it, but I saw Trent Green, another perfect example of a guy that went elsewhere and had a career revitalization. You just don't know when the light bulb. Hell, we're watching it with Geno Smith right now, right? Anyway, I said all of that to say this. You couple the statement that he made right there about what he's looking for in a quarterback. And he's not the only one making this decision. He's going to take input from Cliff Kingsbury. He's going to take input from Dan Quinn. He's going to take input from Lance Newmark, right? He's going to take input from the other decision makers and guys that have an influential voice when it comes to the quarterback position. And he's going to take all of that stuff in. He's going to listen to the scouts, what they're hearing. But when it's all said and done, I listen to that. And I hear what I'm about to talk about. I look at this trade of Sam Howell, and I think to myself, one, yes, the last remaining appendage of the Ron Rivera era, Ron's plan, if you will, the last little bit of Ron's plan, because if you think about the core players that are here, that are left in Ron's wake, they were all here before Ron got here. Terry McLaurin, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Jeremy Reeves. These guys were all here before Ron got here. Jeremy Reeves wasn't on the active roster, but he was already a guy that was bouncing around from practice squad, getting cut, et cetera, et cetera. All he did was give Jeremy Reeves a shot. But Reeves was already here. They didn't draft him. When you look at the foundational building block pieces outside of Jahan Dotson and Sam Cosmi, and I guess Emmanuel Forbes, we'll see, and Quan Martin, we'll see how those guys do though, right? I almost don't want to count those guys, but I have to. Those rookies from a season ago. But the real core pieces, the guys that we've seen do it and know can do it at a high level in this league, those aren't Rivera guys. They were here before he got here. So in essence, he really didn't do anything in the last little semblance of, but I did that though, with Sam Howell. So he removed that from the equation. Now none of that shit exists here. But it's deeper than that. Do you remember the conversation? And I don't know if we talked about it, if I played it for you or what. I know I listened to it. And I think I told you guys it's a good listen. And I remember talking to you, so I know I didn't play it for you, but I remember talking to you about an interview on Adam Schefter's podcast with Drake May. And I said, oh, he's a Southern country bumpkin, all shucks. But his is legitimate, right? It's authentic. It's not Dabo Sweeney, excuse me, where it feels like an act, like Gomer Pyle. Oh, shucks. We just little old Clemson. You know, we just trying to compete with these other teams out here. Just see what happens. Man, shut up. His is legit. He's just a Southern kid, right? Adam Schefter asked him about his relationship with Sam Howell. And he said, got a great relationship with him. He's like my best friend. We were just at the Duke game together. We all saw the photo, him towering over Sam Howell. But the most interesting answer he gave Adam Schefter was when Adam asked him, what would the dynamic be like? He said it wouldn't be ideal for them to be teammates in the NFL. Both of them want to play. Nobody wants to sit by. This isn't college. I'm not going to wait my turn. In the NFL, you don't get a turn. we draft a guy second overall, that means we're done with you as a starter. You have to sit behind me. That is your job. That's not fun. That's not cool. You don't think they talked to Drake Maye and asked him? Like, part of your psych evaluation is to put them in uncomfortable situations, ask them questions to see how they respond. That's why we hear some of these weird ass, wacky questions that they ask them, and you go, what the hell are they doing? Why would you ask somebody that? They just want to see how they respond, which is dumb if you ask me. That shit don't have nothing to do with nothing, but still, you know, they do that from time to time. But this was a legitimate question that they probably asked him. How would you feel if Sam Howell remained on the roster? And if he gave, I mean, he's going to give you your standard, you know, look, we're all professionals, yada, yada, but they know. And he probably said to a certain degree, you know, it would be a little awkward. We're both competitors. We want to play. You know, we're the best of friends, but that's not an ideal situation. So you trade away Sam. He's telling you, running's nice. That's cool, but I need my quarterback to do his work from the pocket. You look at his track record and his past and the successes and the failures, and to me, it all adds up to Drake Maye being the number 2 overall pick in the draft for the Washington Commanders. So my declaration tonight is that we're taking Drake Maye. I haven't said that before. I just said that's who I would take. I think they're going to take Drake Maye with the 2nd overall pick. I could be wrong. And I don't care who they take. As long as it's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft, I've made that abundantly clear. I don't care which one they take. I think all of them have a path to success in this league. And the way that we're setting up this roster and how we're insulating whomever they select at number 2 overall, we're doing a pretty damn good job of building a roster that can at least compete around that quarterback. Now, still got some work to do on the offensive line. And I said this last night. Do you really think Adam Peters is not going to do something? He already went out and signed a center. He already went out and signed a guard. You got Sam Cosmi. All you need are 2 tackles. I say all you need is if it's easy and tackles grow on trees and you can just grab 2 and you're fine. But they're going to draft tackles. Plural, 2 tackles. Even if they sign a guy in free agency, which I still think is a more than likely scenario, I still think they're going to sign a tackle. And I would be shocked if they didn't, because you need a swing tackle. And unless they like one of the guys already on the roster, which I don't know how you could like anybody on this roster as a swing tackle right now, I would assume they're going to go out in free agency and at least get one of those guys. I've been talking about Yosh Nijman as the option that I would pursue, but we'll see what they decide to do, right? I think they're going to draft Drake Maye. Everything that I've heard, all the different things that are kind of lining up, all speak to Drake Maye ending up being here in Washington. We'll see. I could be wrong about that. So, Chef P is cooking, man. How could you not be impressed with this first week? Boy, he did a lot in just 4 days. Added 2 more free agents, 1 in-house, 1 outside the building. So now what is that number up to? Total. I think we were at 13 yesterday. I'm not, no, we were past 13. It was 6 in day 1. It was another 4 or 5. It was 5. It was 5. It was Mariota. It was Cleveland Farrell. It was Jeremy Chin. It was Tyler Ott, and it was Dante Fowler Jr. So it was 5 in day 2. Day 3, we added Bobby Wagner, re-signed Jeremy Reeves, and I think there was one more addition as well. But it was 3 more dudes. I'm blanking on one of them. So that brought the number to 15. Then you add Zach Ertz, that's 16. Crowder, thank you. Thank you, Kevin Hooker. Crowder. So that brings you to 16 with Ertz added into the mix. And then today you add Anthony Pittman and you re-sign F.A. Obata. So that brings the number to 18 signings. And of the 18, 3 were in-house. Crowder, Revo, and F.A. So 15 non-commanders have been signed. 3 have been brought back. The total is up to 18. We had 21 free agents. We then released 3 other players. We just traded Sam. So you've moved on from 25 guys, essentially, minus the 3 that are brought back. So that number is 22. So you see where I'm going, right? Still got some work to do. But we're getting close to that number. I think you got to balance that out before you hit the draft, right? So they're getting close. I still think there's room to add a tackle, a corner or 2. You saw that we were sniffing around Isaac Yiadom today. So they're still looking at corners, clearly. Nothing got done with Isaac Yiadom, but clearly they were interested. And maybe they still get something done with him, but he left without a deal. So we'll see what ultimately happens. But in 4 days, between the acquisitions and then the trading of Sam Howell and somehow coming out of that thing with an additional 3rd, I get it. You gave up a 4th. It's not like you kept your 4th and added a 3rd, but swapping and ending up with another day 2 pick, who thought that was going to happen? And let me go ahead and do it now before I forget, because I really don't want to do this shit. But I was pretty adamant the other night that you weren't getting a day 2 pick. I was pretty adamant. So, okay. Mistakes were made. I'm not even going to say I was fill in the blank. Not for this one, because it wasn't as egregious. But okay. Mistakes were made. I'll admit, double O. I didn't think we were fetching. I didn't think Sam was fetching us a 3rd at all in any capacity. I don't give a shit that it's a, it ain't even a compensatory pick. 78. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. See what y'all got to say. Daniel Moore, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And we'll circle back and get to what was said by a lot of the guys. We heard from a number of players today. They just were cycling them through one by one. As I mentioned, of all the guys that signed, and I just told you the number is 18. It's 15 outsiders, which are all the guys you want to talk to. I don't think we're going to hear from Jamison Crowder, F.A. Obata, or Jeremy Reeves. We're introducing the new players to the market, to the media, et cetera, et cetera. So we've heard from 13 out of the 15 signees. I think Dante Fowler Jr. and Bobby Wagner are the only 2 that I don't think we heard from. Tyler Biotish, we didn't hear from him. So that would be 12. And I don't feel like I listened to 12 different guys. Felt like more like 8, maybe 9. So there's probably 2 or 3 more guys we didn't hear from. But I'll talk about all the guys that I did listen to. So Daniel Moore, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Daniel, writes, I was hoping to keep Howell, but then I hear your voice. We now have adults in the room. Best of luck to him, but let's nail this number 2. Look, this whole process from the jump was about maximizing the resources that Adam Peters was provided with when he got here. That was part of the draw. I've talked about this already. Part of the draw of him coming here was the draft capital, 5 picks in the first 100, 6 in the first 102, and the like $80 to $90 million worth of cap space, which was second in the league. That was the draw. What were you going to do with all of those assets? All of those resources? Clearly, you've seen what he was able to do. We still have a ton of money. A ton of money. If we wanted to go dumb, we could go dumb right now. We're not going to. There's no reason to. But if we wanted to, we could. Right? So he's been fiscally responsible while still building up the roster. And this is what it looks like. I told you it was going to be a steady diet of one-year deals and, guys that aren't going to be here long-term. But that's how you make it to the next season. That's what it's about. You're not going to fix everything in 1 year. I've been very clear about this. This is what a rebuild looks like, or a recalibration. This is what it looks like. It's not going to be for the faint of heart. You're going to sign Cleveland Farrells. You're going to sign Anthony Pittmans. Okay? Don't let people dissuade you in thinking that nothing is being done here in a positive manner, because it is. I've already told you, though, temper your expectations. Some of you are starting to talk reckless already, and I see it happening, and I'm like, hey, calm down. The moves that have been made aren't going to translate to big numbers in the left-hand column. All it's going to do is make us a more competitive team, and it's going to give us a shot in games that maybe we wouldn't have, because I think this defense is going to be pretty good if they remain healthy. I think this defense has a chance to be good. I don't know what this offense is going to be. I don't know what the quarterback's going to do. I don't know how this offensive line is going to come together. All I know is they've put themselves in a position, and we talked about this yesterday and the day before that, but yesterday in particular, and with this trade of Sam Howell and adding another day 2 pick with the swap, you've put yourself in even more comfortable position to be at your best when your best is required. And your best is going to be required because, as we know, and even Chef P said it himself, you build your team through the draft. You supplement your roster through free agency. So we need him at his best. We need Lance Newmark at his best. We need the scouts at their best. We need the board to be at its best, and we need it to fall in the way that we need it to, or we need to be aggressive and make plays to help us get the players that we want. In that last week of April, the 25th through the 27th. And they've positioned themselves to do that. Yes, adults are in the building now. The kids have left. The immaturity is no longer there where, we ain't going to do business with him because we don't like him. He think he all that. Like some middle school girls. Could have got a first-round pick for Kirk Cousins. I don't want to trade him to Kyle Shanahan. How stupid could you be? No, there are adults in the room now. It's about business. It ain't about hard feelings, none of that shit. It's about business. And that's what happened. Sam, this ain't got nothing to do with Sam. Sam's a tough cookie, as Dan Quinn said. He's a likable dude. I think it was it Dan Quinn or was it Adam Peters that said he got out and they walked around the building, right? One of them said they walked around the building with him. I think it was Dan Quinn. Might have been Adam Peters. I don't remember who said it, but I know they said they walked with him, talked with him, got to know him, like him. It ain't about that. likable guy, tough, son of a bitch, fought his ass off. Considering the circumstances were not stacked in his favor, he gave us everything he could. It just wasn't enough. It ain't personal, just business, bro. AJ Meehan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. AJ, thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, well then, forget what I said about sticking with Sam and trading back last night, LOL. Again, that narrative was so far-fetched. You don't get this high in the draft. And this is the thing. If this were the 2022 draft, this draft that Sam was in, when there were no quarterbacks, if you could find somebody that wanted to come up, which the only way you generally get teams to come up in a draft is for quarterback. I'm not giving you high-level draft capital to come up for an edge rusher or a tackle or a receiver. I'll wait. I'll figure it out. But I'm not giving you anything. I'll give you something for the most important position in the sport, which is quarterback. I'll come up for that. Especially when we're talking top 5. That narrative that people wanted to believe about trading back, it just made zero sense from so many different angles. Like, bro, the goal is to never be drafting this high again. So while you're here, you need to grab the quarterback. Right? Because there's no telling if you'll ever be this high again without having to give something up to get there. Look at the Giants. I've had some fun dialogue with Giants fans today, right? Because they know they screwed themselves when they beat us this past season. And I've had so much fun. I hate losing. And I'm competitive and I wanted to bust I told you before the season, and I told Bad Dog before the season, we're going to bust your shit to the white meat show twice. And after they beat us the first time, and we saw where the season was going, Seattle was the last stand. When we lost in week 10 to Seattle, that was the last stand. We knew it was over at that point. And the team acted as if they emptied the tank in Seattle and they had nothing left to give because every game after that felt like an ass whooping or at least a debacle. We didn't get our ass whooped by the Giants the following week, but it was a debacle. We turned it over 6 times. It was a debacle. You look at how things went and you look at where we are now, and the Giants, all they had to do was not beat us once, and we would flip spots. But they couldn't help themselves, right? They had to do it. And there were dumb fans out there that even in week 18 against Dallas, I heard dumb fans out there. And if you were one of the ones that wanted to beat Dallas in week 18, I'm talking to you, and I'm not apologizing for it because there was no upside to beating Dallas. And there still was this contingency of fans out there. Well, they need to learn how to win. You can't learn how to win by losing. 25 guys are no longer here from last year's roster. What are you talking about? The same squad that was here last year ain't here this year. Giants fans are looking sick. They over here desperately trying to get in the top 3. They praying that New England pick up the phone because we damn sure are banging on their ass. Bow. Stop calling my line. Slamming the shit on their ass. They got to hope New England is willing to move out of 3. They not. You're screwed, buddy. And all Giants fans keep saying is that goddamn Tommy DeVito. And I told one of the Giants fans, I said, hey, tell your boy DeVito, I said, what's up? Tell him I said, what's up? Hey, Pazan! Appreciate you, bro. He screwed them royally. Thanks. So that narrative, Giants fans would kill to be where we are. And y'all talking that shit about trading back, picking up picks, getting a tackle. A tackle to protect who? I know in that previous iteration it was Sam Howell, but we saw what Sam did. And I get it, it wasn't ideal, but we saw what he did. And I don't want a dude who starts seeing ghosts. We saw he wasn't the same dude. And that, if it happened that time, it can happen again. I don't want that. Because at some point I expected Sam to stop the bleeding. Like, okay, you know, he had a couple of rough outings. All right, one of these joints is going to remind us why he's the guy, right? One of these games, he's going to go off on somebody, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 28, 37 for 364, 3 touchdowns. One of these games, he's going to explode on somebody and remind everybody, shut up, sit down, I'm the guy. It never happened. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse. As the team got worse, he got worse. And for some reason, some fans just couldn't grasp that concept of, bro, there's no trading back. You've got to suck to get to where we were this past year or where we are now in the draft. You got to suck bad to the point where we were the second worst team in football this season. That shit was miserable. And you want to trade back? We earned the second pick in the draft and you want to trade back? Make it make sense. Just make it make sense. That's all I'm at. Make it make sense. That's all I'm asking. Make that make sense for me. Joshua Farish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, I'm trying to maintain my optimism, but damn, this is what it feels like to have adults in charge. Look, it's okay to be excited about what's being done right now. It's okay. You should be excited. I am. Here's what I would encourage though. Understand that games aren't won in March. We're working from such a deficit that even the gains that we have made still put us far behind the 2 teams in this division that are worth a damn, which are the Eagles and the Cowboys. Okay. We were working from such a deficit that the strides that we've made just make us competitive. Those teams looked at us and laughed, even though we were within a whisker of beating the Eagles twice, not once, twice. Okay. We're not afraid of anybody in this division. But again, as I've always told you, being afraid is not a prerequisite to getting your ass beat. You don't have to be afraid to get your ass whooped. You could be up here barking and all brolic, and all it takes is one punch to rock your shit and drop your ass. You ain't got to be scared to get your ass whooped. All we've done is we've made ourselves more competitive. We haven't overtaken anybody in the division. The Giants have improved this offseason. I don't know if you've been paying attention. They still ain't got shit at quarterback right now, but that could change. They could still get themselves a quarterback in the draft. We don't know what's going to happen. But they're good. If they don't get a quarterback, they're going to get themselves a hell of a receiver, right? Something's going to get done. And they've continued to improve, right? We saw the trade for Brian Burns. It's not like they've been stagnant. They ain't staying still neither. Everybody's improving in the division. But we were working from such a deficit that understand that what's been done has been great and it's made us a more competitive team. But don't fool yourself into thinking all of a sudden we're going to win 10, 11 games this year. Please, I beg of you. Even if the draft is killer and we walk away as one of the biggest winners and everybody's convincing you that the Commanders had the best draft, they got an A++, and the offseason you combine it with the draft, and oh my God, look out for the Commanders. Don't fall for the banana in the mother effing tailpipe. Because at the end of the day, that quarterback still got to go out and play. You still got to mesh and gel together. We got a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of new guys here, a lot of new bodies. You still got to figure a lot of shit out on the fly, I may add. A lot of coaching staff changes And we talking about putting together all of these different styles, like meshing. It's a big ass melting pot on both sides of the ball. They're like, yeah, we're going to figure it out. It's a lot of moving parts. And we're still not that damn talented yet. We still got a ways to go before we get to the point where, all right, we only got like 7 spots at the back end of the roster available because everything else is set. We got good dudes. We got blue chippers. We got some reds. You know, we got dudes that are pro bowlers. We got a couple of all pros. Like, we're not nowhere near that yet. We hope to be there in about 3 years. That's when we can start talking crazy. Potentially, what this offseason might represent is the expediting of that process. Instead of it taking 3 years, it might only take 2. But we'll see. Again, it's the NFL, and the NFL is set up for parity. It's the one league where you can go from worst to first, and nobody blinks. I don't see that happening. This ain't the AFC South. Okay, if you're thinking about the Texans, well, the Texans did it. This ain't the AFC South. Okay. We got the Cowboys and the Eagles in this division. And last time I checked, both of those teams, double-digit demons, each of the last 2-3 seasons. For the Eagles, I think it's 2. For the Cowboys, it's the last 3 seasons. Double-digit demons. And it ain't, oh, they just barely got to 10. Now, we talking 12, 13, 14 wins. These boys ain't going away. So I just want you guys to understand that while we've made tremendous strides, and I am so excited about the future, and they've set this table so beautifully, I almost don't even want to eat. But Chef P like, bro, sit your ass down, put your napkin in your shirt, and let's eat, man. Say grace. How can I say no when Chef P is out here chefed in the way that he is? Bon appetit. Joshua, be happy. Be excited. Just temper those expectations when the games start to matter. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Be excited. We in March. There's no crime in being excited in March. Being excited in April and May and into June. Hell, be excited in July and August. But when September gets here, start thinking rational. I know it's hard to turn that shit off. You build it up for 6 months, and then it hits that crescendo in September when the games start to matter, and it's hard to turn it off. Well, don't turn it up so loud to the point where you get to September, and now you can't turn it down because your ears have adjusted, and now you got to keep that shit on 10. Keep it at 6 or 7, right? So even if you got to adjust it and turn it down to 5, you can do that. DJ Walker, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DJ writes, Big Lou, that's cap. Uh-oh. You was talking about Mariota being signed doesn't mean Sam gets traded. We tried to tell your ass. Lovely, brother. So I didn't think it meant he was getting traded. And I saw JP Finley yesterday said that it did mean he was getting traded. He was like, uh-oh, that's not good for Sam. And I didn't think that his signing had anything to do with Sam getting traded. So hear me out. And you might be right. They were going to get them a veteran quarterback regardless, whether it was Sam Darnold. It didn't matter who it was. They were always going to trade Sam. Does that make sense, right? If Seattle's general manager is telling you we were sweating it out, this conversation didn't start after Marcus Mariota signed and the ink dried on the paper and then Washington engaged with 4 teams about trading Sam. They started talking about this shit at the Combine probably, maybe even the Senior Bowl. Probably the Combine though. Hey, you interested in moving Sam Howell? I'm pretty sure you drafted a quarterback at 2. What you trying to do? That conversation happened at the Combine, bro. We hadn't signed Marcus Mariota yet. And they already knew they was moving Sam. Adam Peters probably knew he was moving Sam Howell when he took the job. I don't think it had anything to do with signing. All that did was ensure that we got another quarterback. Now I can finally pull the trigger. They were going to trade him regardless. I didn't know that. And I told you, if the right deal came along for Sam, I'm moving his ass. I just didn't think. What I was really surprised by was the compensation. I knew Sam was the guy viewed around the league as having some talent. Some people view him as a high-level backup. Some people think he could be a low-level starter. I think he's more than that, but I'm not here to debate that. What I'm here to debate is the compensation we got. I didn't think that was possible. Not after what we watched at the end of that season. That was a train wreck. Man has 18 career starts, and we flipped that for essentially a late third-round pick. You got me. My hands are up. I already offered up a double O. I don't know what more you want from me, but I didn't think, and I still don't. I guess I'll die on that hill. I don't think Marcus Mariota's arrival was the reason they traded. I think it signaled the final domino that needed to fall. They were already talking to teams about trading Sam. Hey, let me just make sure I tell the youth of America this all the time. Don't quit your job until you got another one. I can't move on from Sam until I get another quarterback. And so if you're saying it in that regard, then yeah, you're right. And I was wrong. Mistakes were made. But if you're saying it like, okay, we got another quarterback, we can trade Sam. Okay. I can get with that. But I think they were going to trade him regardless. They just needed to make sure they had a backup in tow first. So, yeah, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. I didn't think we were trading them. I'm not going to lie to you. Because I didn't think they were going to get the kind of compensation that they thought they could get. That was my angle. If you wait this process out and somebody loses a quarterback in camp or in preseason, that's when Sam's value goes up and maybe you're able to fleece somebody. I'm not saying that we got over, but I'm saying we got a hell of a lot more than I thought we was going to get. Chef P. Good shit. I'll take that L, DJ. I'll take that L. Jaden Doffelmott, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jaden writes, is this all too good to be true? Am I dreaming? I've seen a lot of that. People still not believing what's going on right now. When you've been down bad for as long as we have, I get it. I've been preaching this, and I told you I was going to chop up that one bit of the podcast, and I plan on doing that because I know a lot of y'all probably didn't watch. But I said you got to start expecting this kind of shrewd maneuvering. You've got to expect the Eagles fans aren't surprised when they get Devin White on a 1-year, $7.5 million deal, or they get, Devontae Parker. And I know some Eagles fans don't like Devontae Parker. What are you complaining about? Like, I saw Alex in here the other day, like, Louu, Devontae Parker sucks. Okay. Is he better than Olamide Zaccheaus? Is he better than Quez Watkins? Yes, he is. So what are we talking about, bro? What's the problem? He's not coming in there to be your second or your first receiver. He's coming in there to be your third option at receiver. Is he better than Julio Jones at this point? Yes, he is better than Julio Jones. Julio Jones is 97 years damn old. Yes, he's better than him at this point of his career. He doesn't separate. Neither does Julio Jones. And you trotted his ass out there for the latter portion of the season. Anyway, I said all of that to say this. Expect this type of competency moving forward. Don't be surprised. Don't be in shock or in awe. Like, yeah, that's my GM, man. That's Chef P. You ain't heard of him? Yeah, that's my guy. Yeah. Expect that. This is how we move from now on. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, man, did that one hurt. But looking at the Mac Jones and Ritter trades, this was objectively good value. Best of luck to Sam in Seattle. Go tear it up. Yeah. And it's funny because all of these boys got moved this offseason. All of them 2022 quarterbacks. I know Mac Jones is a 21er, but Ritter got moved. Sam is gone, obviously. I saw somebody, list all of the quarterbacks from that 22 draft, and it's ugly, man. But here's the thing about the 2022 draft. We knew it wasn't a good draft at quarterback. So people talking about that draft and shitting on it like they saying something. Like, bro, we all came to a collective agreement that draft at quarterback was trash. So looking at Kenny Pickett, the only first round pick, and him essentially getting replaced by Russell Wilson, there were no second round picks. The third rounders are all either backups at this point or out of the league, or they've been traded, right? Ritter was traded. Corral is out of the league. And I think Zappy, if I'm not mistaken, Malik Willis is obviously a backup to Will Levis. Then Zappy is a backup to whomever the Patriots draft here in the second round, third overall pick. And then Sam got traded. And then, of course, there's the golden child of that draft, the last quarterback and the last player selected in the 2022 NFL draft, Brock Purdy. So anyway, this one hurt a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna front. This one caught me off guard. You know what? I'm gonna tell you a story real quick of how I found out. So I was sitting here. I was going through some of my MusicHead comments, some of the comments from the LouieTeeNetwork, responding to some comments, waiting for my wife to get home. And she gets home and she was like, dang, he gone. And I'm like, I'm thinking she's just talking about some random, stuff. So I was like, who, babe? Sam. Excuse me? Sam who? She said, Sam Howell. I said, he gone? Like, what? What you mean he gone? She said, you didn't see the alert? You didn't see Bleacher Report? I said, no. I picked up my phone. She said, yeah, they traded him to Seattle. I said, stop playing, man. So I pick up my phone. I look, and again, remember the story I told you about when I was about to do the video for Cam Curl, and then they signed Bobby Wagner, and my Twitter was full. My messages on my phone were full, and that's how it was today. I was like, oh, shit. He really did get traded. And I open it up, and I see the compensation, and I went into the initial stage was mourning, like, oh, man, it happened. It's over, man. It really's over. NHO, it's like, it's been over, but it's finality now. It's really over. Then I saw the compensation. I was like, peace. Farewell, Sam. We'll always have the good times, bro. We just got a third-round pick. We got another third-round pick. But in all seriousness, I wish him nothing but the best. I'm rooting like hell for him, except for when he plays the Commanders. I'm rooting like hell for him. I literally want him to go in there and prove people wrong. There's still a part of me that's like, I want him to shit on all the people that doubted him when he was here. And not just for me, because I started NHO and all of that. I believed in him. I genuinely believed in him. Genuinely. I believed that he could play in this league. And I still do. Joshua Ferris. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, what's better is that those Eagles are under investigation. I saw that yesterday, right? And I really appreciate, because these media members, boy, I be wanting to slap the shit out of some of them, but they got a job to do. Their job is to get a story. Their job isn't to protect the team or the players or any of that shit. If something happens, it's not their fault. They just ask the questions. You got to be responsible enough to answer the questions in a way that you don't put yourself or the team in jeopardy, right? But Ben Standig today asked Marcus Mariota, who reached out to you? Was it Adam Peters, or was it Dan Quinn, or was it Brian Johnson? Like, which one of the coaches? Because how Ben talk, like somebody chasing him, right? And he can't get his shit together. And Marcus was like, yeah, nah, I didn't talk to anybody. My agent talked to everybody. I didn't talk to anybody till 4 o'clock. I'm like, see, I knew I liked you for a reason. I knew why. I said, hey, we gonna be real good friends, man. We're gonna be real good friends. Because he could have said, I don't, and he's probably telling the truth. But even if that didn't happen, bro, I ain't talked to nobody till 4 o'clock on Wednesday. That's the standard company line. I don't give a shit if I was talking to them on Monday when the tampering period first opened up. The standard line, hey, I ain't talked to nobody till 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Clearly, some of these numbskulls with the Eagles, and then I know in Saquon's case, his ex-college coach, what's his damn name? The bald-head, light-skinned dude. He said that Saquon had talked to the Eagles. And so, you just got, this is what happened when you involve too many people, right? People don't know what the hell to say. He probably didn't know he was getting the Eagles potentially in trouble for tampering and shit. He didn't know. James Franklin, right? He ain't know. This is why you don't involve too many people, though. The more people, I watch too many, murder shows, First 48 and shit like that. The more people you involve, the more likely it is your ass gonna get caught, because somebody gonna say something. Somebody gonna F up. Involve the least amount of people as possible. Keep that shit between you and your agent, and that is it. That way, ain't nobody fumbling, because only 2 of us knew what was going on. I ain't say shit, so if something came out, then it must have been your ass. The agent ain't gonna F up. So, I love it. I hope something comes of it. I hope they get slapped for a draft pick, get fined, all that good stuff. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. OG triple OG, Mr. Ron B writes, thanks, Sam. You were a pro and never made excuses. Good luck moving forward. Cheers, Sam. Facts. He was always a stand-up guy with the media, even after the tough ones. Never made any excuses, as you mentioned. Pro's pro. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. All right. Now nothing in the way of drafting and playing Maye or anyone. The vision is clear, and Adam Peters keeps on cooking. Obata re-signed was a surprise. You know what? It was for me too. I didn't see that one coming. You know what I heard? I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody told me that Obata said that Dan Quinn contacted him when about his injury and asked him how he was doing. And he was like, yeah, that was a class act move. And that's when he knew, like, I could see myself playing here, right? This dude, like, and what have we heard about Dan Quinn to a man? He cares about his players. Dorrance Armstrong interviewed with today and met with the media, and he said, the reason he's here is Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. And he said they care about their players on a personal level. And you said that's not common in this sport. You know, that's not how every coach operates. You know, he said he didn't say it like this, but he pretty much like most coaches operate in a transactional fashion. You know, you're here to do a service. We pay you to do that service, and then you complete said job, right? You go home, I go home, right? It's more than that for Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., though. Dan Quinn in particular. It's more than that. We family out here, man. Y'all putting y'all, you know, bodies on the line out here, and you got families just like I got family. And I just want to make sure y'all good at the end of the day. And I'm not just talking about football good. And Dorrance Armstrong was like, yeah, nah, I mean, that's why I'm here. So Obata probably was roped in at that moment when Quinn contacted him and was like, bro, how's your recovery going? How you feeling? And selfishly, Quinn could have been just checking in just to see, hey, is this a dude we can potentially sign, or do we need to move on from him? But I think he was genuinely checking up on him. Hey, how you doing, man? So I was shocked they re-signed FA, but from a play standpoint, I wasn't. It made perfectly good sense. I didn't think about FA. Out of sight, out of mind. He missed the final, 4 games of the season, and so it's easy to forget about FA. All we watched down the stretch was, futile attempts at the quarterback from James Smith-Williams, Casey Toohill, KJ Henry, and Andre Jones Jr. So I forgot all about FA, to be honest with you. But he was the guy that hustled. He was the guy that played balls to the wall. And again, he's the guy that offers you the ability to kick inside. Because I'm telling you, you're going to see the shit that I've been begging for years, which was, hey, you can put more than one pass rusher on the field at the same time on obvious passing downs. You can get freaky with it, right? I kept waiting for them to reduce Chase Young inside, bring another pass rusher on the outside, and try to get to the quarterback like that, right? They never did that. I was waiting for them to put Chase and Tez on the same side and let them rush. They never did that. You're going to see all of that shit this year. And FA is one of those dudes you can kick inside and add a little quickness. So it makes sense. He plays hard. He's a physical dude. He can play multiple positions along the defensive line. That versatility, that effort, and that energy, I see exactly why they re-signed him. But like you said, I wasn't thinking about him, so I was shocked by it. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, wonder if Sam is more of a week 1 to 10 guy or the guy from week 11 on. Felt like the league started to figure him out, but all the best to him, though. I don't think the league figured it out. I don't think the league figured him out necessarily as much as he started to succumb to internal pressures, which was don't take a sack, that type of thing. And then I think the lack of resources, meaning options, outlets to get the ball to when there was pressure, things of that nature, easy completions. I used to complain about where are the easy completions, where are the screens, where are the slants, where's the swing routes to the back out of the back, where's the easy layup completions to get them into a rhythm? There were none. I think teams started to adjust to Eric Bieniemy, less to Sam, more to Bieniemy. Like, okay, this is what he's doing. These are his concepts. We cover this, we cover that. He's going to hold on to the ball because that's what Sam does. And he's going to take a sack, or he's going to try to find an incompletion instead of extending the play like he did early in the season. It's a fair question. Which one of those guys is he? I think he's the weeks 1 to 10, but I'm biased, so you can't ask me. I'm biased. Best of luck to him, like you said. 1/6 Devil Doc. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, after hearing the recent negative news on Maye, it's convincing me that it's a smokescreen and he's actually the second best quarterback for most teams. This is the cycle that we go through every year at quarterback. They beat up CJ Stroud pretty good last year. Somehow we had to actually entertain a conversation that included Will Levis being the #1 overall pick. These are the conversations. This is the shit that happens this time of the year, which is why I tell you, don't subscribe to any of it, okay? Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T, right? This is why I tell you that. Because this is the season where people have nothing better to do than to nitpick, than to make up shit. And sometimes there's an agenda behind it. You don't know who starts these rumors or whatever, but there's an agenda behind it, right? But the good thing is a lot of that shit is for us, the consumers. The teams cut through that bullshit. They know what's true, what's not true, right? The Texans weren't tripping about all of that testing shit that was going on with CJ Stroud. And, the only thing that I had, questions with CJ Stroud on going into that bowl game against Georgia was, is he going to make something happen when the play breaks down? Because all I saw was this dude operate from the pocket. He won't run. He can't extend plays. And then that dude in that one game dispelled any notion that he wasn't a playmaker off schedule. He was making all sorts of plays with his legs, extending with his legs to then throw with his arm. He was, creating more time in the pocket. He did all types of shit that we hadn't seen him do in the previous 2 years. He did in that one game, and I said, all right, I'm sold. I'm sold. And the Texans were too. And even though we heard all this dumbass shit, at the end of the day, he still went #2 overall. And that's what's happening with Drake Maye. And this is what happens. And we're going to hear stuff about Caleb Williams. We're going to hear stuff about Drake Maye. When it's all said and done, I think Drake Maye is going to be the #2 overall pick in this draft. People are going to beat him up. We already seen Chris Sims beat him up pretty good. Merrill Hodge beat him up pretty good. But Merrill Hodge beats up everybody pretty good. Who gives a shit about what Merrill Hodge is talking about? Okay? He said Caleb Williams isn't any good, pretty much. So I don't give a shit what Merrill Hodge is talking about. At the end of the day, Drake Maye, I think, is going to be the #2 pick in the draft, and we'll go from there. We'll go from there. Ron M, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ron M writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Ron? How's it going? Touche. Touche. As much as I hate to kick a stand while he's down, the news of Sam Howell is getting traded made my day. No more of this build around Sam Howell nonsense. Give me some of that Kool-Aid. It was funny because you went off yesterday on the Howell stands and called them morons and all kinds of stuff, right? And I was like, I won't call them morons. I might call their line of thinking moronic, but I won't call them morons. But you were a lot less fragile, and a lot less careful and measured. You was like, nah, F that. I'm tired of these clowns. They morons. Now you can rest easy, right? You can rest easy. It's over. It's over. I'm just happy with the compensation we got. Again, that's been the most surprising thing, I think, to this point of the start of free agency is how much we got for Sam. I didn't see it coming. I'm not going to lie. And they told us this is what the conversation was. You could fetch a 3rd round pick. I was like, man, out of here with that, man. I don't believe you. You need more people. They won't lying. One of the few times in lion season that they actually weren't lying. It's rare. Rob you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Rob you writes, Lou, nothing but respect for Howell. He will get another opportunity at some point. Wish it would have worked here, but it wasn't meant to be. I don't need to add anything to that. I think you said it very eloquently. That is exactly how I feel. Wish things could have been different, but such is life. And again, as much as I wanted it to be different, had it ended up being different, I don't know if Adam Peters is here, and Dan Quinn probably isn't here. So everything, I'm a huge believer, and I told you this before, and everything happens for a reason. So did that. Dr. B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, thoughts on Eagles getting White, NFC Beast back. I thought it was a great move by the Eagles. I hated that he landed there, but for a team that generally doesn't give a shit about linebacker, that's a hell of a move. I hate it because if he plays to his full potential, I've already talked about this guy being one of the most explosive and dynamic linebackers in the NFL. When he's locked in and he gives a shit, there aren't many better than Devin White. So now we have to deal with that twice a year. What I'm hoping is he gets infected with the evils in that locker room and get some of that selfishness that A.J. Brown and some of the other guys in that locker room suffer from. And he's on a one-year deal. This is the thing, though. He's on a one-year deal. He's got to prove it if he wants to get paid. So I expect him to ball out of his brains this year. I more so worry for the team that signs him to a long-term deal, because that's when he can get complacent after he's gotten his bread. Right now, he's got to earn it. So I think he just had a slap in the face and a cold dose of reality. Like, bro, this shit can be taken from you if you're not serious. You went from a top 5 pick and a guy that was supposed to be getting this massive payday to signing on, the second day of the actual free agency, but literally day 4 of free agency, and a 1-year prove-it deal at that. So I think he might have been, woken up by this chain of events, and I think they're going to get the best version of Devin White, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the division. So it's a great move. It's a Howie Roseman move. I hate it, but I'm cool. It's whatever, right? I mean, what you gonna do? I think he's a really good football player. They just got to get the most out of him. I'm glad we got who we got. I'm not upset. I'm not envious. I don't wish it was us, because I wanted Frankie Louu. I just want the guy that I know. I don't have to question if his heart is in it today, if he's feeling it this week. Am I going to get maximum effort on this next snap? I don't have to worry about that with Frankie Louu or with B-Wags, right? I'm not tripping about Devin White going to Philly, because they got to ask themselves that on every snap. Are we going to get the best version of Devin White on this snap or not? I don't have to worry about that. But he's still a hell of a player. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP. Sad to see Howell leave, and I'll forever be grateful for the one season he gave us. But at least we can now turn our attention to getting our quarterback in the draft. You were so worried, JP. And I told you, you got nothing to worry about, JP. They're not going to do anything crazy. You only get this opportunity once every blue moon, right? And again, some teams like Jacksonville find themselves stinking it up 2 years in a row. But that was a unique set of circumstances, right? Same thing with the Bears ending up with the first pick in the draft 2 years in a row. Unique set of circumstances. In the case of Jacksonville, you got Trevor Lawrence, and then you weren't supposed to be back that next year at number 1, but then Herb showed up and effed everything up. And so you ended up with the number 1 pick again, right? Bears, you earned the number 1 pick last year, This year, you weren't supposed to have it, but you traded with Carolina last year because you didn't need it because you had Justin Fields. And then they stunk it up. And so you got the number 1 pick again. So a unique set of circumstances. Generally, you don't get back to the top of the draft or around the top of the draft in consecutive years, or for that matter, you know, because if you take a quarterback or you got a guy, you're going to look how long it took us to get up here, right? We were this high in 2020. And we did all of this without a quarterback, right? We found a way to be middle of the pack with a new starting quarterback every single year. Haskins in 20, middle of the pack. Started with Ryan Fitzpatrick, ended up being Heineke, but it was Fitzpatrick in 2021. It was Heineke in 2022. Excuse me. And then it was Sam in 2023. Or excuse me, it was Wentz in 2022. And then it was Sam in 2023. So we managed to be mid, even without a dude that we were trying to see if he could be the guy, pretty much. It took a lame duck coach and a season that, you know, kind of went nowhere fast after starting out with promise. It's hard to believe. And I often find myself saying, bro, we started 2-0. I got that video in my phone when me and my boys were at, you know, in South Beach, and I watched the Broncos game and we won, and we, you know, had the Hail Mary, they caught it, and then we juice mugged them on the 2-point conversion, and somehow they didn't throw a flag, and they had Jerry Jeudy wide ass open on the other side of the field, but whatever, that's nor here nor there. We got away with one, and we were 2-0. We started the season 2-0. That is so hard to believe. We won 4 games, and 2 of them came the first 2 weeks of the season. That's pretty hard to do. That is pretty damn hard to do. Yikes. And you know what's crazy is the 4 teams we beat. Arizona has the 4th pick in the draft. New England has the 3rd pick in the draft. Denver started out what, 0-4, 0-5 before they won like 5 in a row or whatever to turn their season around. That's the only reason they're at 11. If not for getting like ridiculously hot and winning like 5 or 6, you know, 5 out of 6 or 5 in a row, whatever it was, they're probably in the top 10, probably more likely in the top 7, right there with us. And then we beat the Atlanta Falcons, and they're 8th. I mean, Jesus, man. Wow, we were bad. Yikes. I told you had nothing to worry about, JP. And now you really don't have anything to worry about, which you never did in the first place. But you just like, I seen some crazy shit before. I'm like, this ain't that, though. This ain't that. King of the Bluegrass, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I'm happy for Sam. Good luck. One last time. Hashtag NHO.
New Howell order.
One last time. One last time. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Peters literally walked into this organization and said behind the scenes, this roster is trash, and turned over half of it in 4 days. He didn't say that behind the scenes. The man literally paused when he was asked about his opinion of this roster. The man paused for 5 seconds before answering and then said, there are some cornerstone players, but there's a lot of work to be done. He didn't say that he literally said it to our face in the most kind and most passive-aggressive way. He told us this roster was trash. You know, I'm a big body language guy. You're taking your clues from body language, social cues, and he did it both. with his body language and then his actual words. So it wasn't no behind the scenes. He told us the roster was trash. and I'm gonna clean it up. And he started that process. Got a long way to go, but he started the process and he's gotten off to a good start. G Style, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. G Style writes, what it do, Lou? What's going on, G Style? Your content has been exceptional during this free agency period. I love linebacker play to the fullest. We finally have coaches that value the linebackers. We finally got a staff that values the linebackers. I mean, I said this, I think 2 or 3 days ago. First of all, I appreciate the kind words, G Style. Thank you for the support. But I think I said this like 2 or 3 days ago. You got to go all the way back to London Fletcher. The last time we had a real linebacker that we trusted, that we thought was worth a damn. And the last time you had an actual core of linebackers that we thought was worth a damn, you got to go back to the Greg Williams administration. You got to go back to Gibbs 2.0. You got to go back to LeVar, Marcus Washington, Antonio Pierce, and I think Lamar Marshall was on that team too. Maybe Warwick Holdman was there. I think Lamar Marshall came into focus in 05 after Antonio Pierce left. But in 04, we still had Antonio Pierce. To me, that was the better of the two defenses in 04 and 05, which were both very good. But 04's defense was even better. That's the last time, you're talking 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, was the last time we had a legit linebacking core. We've gone through the Perry Rileys of the world and the Mason Fosters of the world and the Keenan Robinsons of the world. Like, this is the shit that we've tried to hype up, and these are the players that have come through here. And the Rocky McIntoshes, Rocky loves Emily. I remember I say that all the time. Loved Rocky McIntosh. Rocky wasn't that good, right? Like, these are the linebackers that were paraded through here, and we tried to build them up into something that they weren't. And we were doing it for years. Finally, in 4 days, we've done more with the linebacker position than we've done in a decade. In 4 days. Madness. Zo life, no life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, good luck, Howell and Kurt Cole. Kurt Cole with Joe Brady again. I love that land and destination for Kurt Cole. I think he's a damn good football player. I gained a lot of respect for him last year. You know, when shit wasn't going well and we needed somebody to step up, he was the guy. You know, he was the guy that stepped up. He was the guy. David Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy David writes, what up, Louie? What's going on, David? Would you rather have Howell or Mariota as a backup? Why sign a vet for $8 million when you have a capable rookie on a budget contract? So let me explain this to you, David, because there was always going to be a veteran backup. I talked about this, I think Sunday night when I had that video about Fast and Furious. Like, y'all expect free agency to be fast and furious. Tomorrow, when that, you know, tampering period begins, and I didn't know when it started, and somebody was like, it's at noon. I was like, okay, when noon hits, expect this team to be aggressive. And they were, right? 4 guys in the first 4 hours, 6 guys that day. So I told you we were going to get a backup quarterback. And they go quick. And I said, expect a backup quarterback very quickly, because I learned about the backup quarterback market back in 2021 when we were shopping at the backup quarterback store for Ryan Fitzpatrick, when we swung and missed, when we tried to get Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers and all those, and, you know, nobody wanted to come here. And so we had to settle on Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I remember how quickly that market dried up. And they were excited they got Ryan Fitzpatrick because Andy Dalton signed, and Jameis Winston signed, and Tyrod Taylor signed, and them boys went quick, bow, 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 bow. And I was like, yo, you better reach in there and grab one, because once they gone, right? Backup quarterbacks are so vital in this league. And they're vital for different reasons for different teams. I've said this multiple times, and I know I said this the other day. I said, you need a good backup quarterback, a quality backup quarterback for one of two reasons in this league. One, you view yourself as a title contender, and every title contending team needs a quality backup quarterback in the event that their starter goes down for a week or two. We saw that with the Browns last year, and their quarterback did not go down for a week or two. He went down for a very long time. And luckily, Joe Flacco stepped in and saved the day, right? I think about the Chiefs, the year they won the Super Bowl. And did they win it that year? Or did they just make it? The year that Patrick Mahomes got injured. Yeah, they won it that year. That was 20. No, I think I'm mixing up my years. That's the year they beat the Browns. I don't think they won it that year. I think they lost to Tampa that year, if I'm not mistaken. But Mahomes got injured, left the game, and Chad Henne had to come in and save the day that game, right? You have to have one. The other reason you got to have a backup is if you got a young quarterback that's coming into the league and you're going to draft one. Look at what happened last year. The Houston Texans went out and signed Case Keenum in free agency. The Carolina Panthers went out and signed Andy Dalton in free agency last year. And I think there was one more team. Indianapolis Colts signed Gardner Minshew last year. All three teams were in the top 4 of the draft. All three teams knew they were taking a quarterback. All three teams wanted to make sure their rookie had a veteran attached to him so that quarterback could be shown the ropes, could be given the game, essentially. All right? Sam's a cheap, inexpensive, resourceful backup, but Sam himself is also a puppy. I just talked about Sam only having 18 career starts, David. Sam has not been in the same offense in his career in the NFL. He would have been in his 3rd offense in as many years. So Sam is of no use to a rookie. He's still a puppy himself. He's still trying to figure out the NFL himself. He's still trying to carve out a niche for himself. So how is he going to help somebody else when he's still trying to help himself? I always talk about sports being a microcosm of life. It's hard for a person to bring a life into this world and give that life the attention and the nurturing that it needs and the attention that it needs when you're still trying to figure out your place. So it's important to not have kids until you're ready to have kids. Because if you're immature and you're still running around in these streets and you're 22 years old, like, let's not make grandma raise your kid, right? Let's not be a deadbeat parent because you're not ready. And it's the same thing in the NFL. You can't ask a young quarterback to mentor another young quarterback when he's still trying to figure out, how do I survive in this league? You can't ask a young child. Now, and again, it's a little different because you made a decision that brought another life into this world, but how are you going to ask somebody who's trying to figure out where their place is in society and where I fit in, how are they supposed to raise a child and they don't even know where they belong and how they fit into this equation? It's tough. So I said all of that to say this, David. The reason Sam couldn't be the backup here, and I thought he was still going to be here, but there was going to be a buffer in between Sam and the number 2 overall pick, and there was going to be a backup, is because Marcus Mariota, and they were sniffing around Sam Darnold before he signed in Minnesota. Both of them had a similar track record, right? Both of them are now established backup quarterbacks. But I think the even bigger draw, both of them had experience with people on the staff. Mariota talked about today his relationship with Brian Johnson. He's like, yo, I watched Brian Johnson go through some shit last year. And the way he handled that, I got nothing but respect for him. And I like that energy. He had positive energy. I like being around that type of energy. So I wanted to be around Brian Johnson again. But really, they looked at Mariota and they looked at Sam Darnold. Both of them had familiarity with the staff. So that was the reason that those guys were as high on the list as they were. But really what it boiled down to is we about to draft a guy number 2 overall. I want a guy that knows what that feels like and the expectations that come with that and the pressure and the magnitude of that. I need somebody to be able to convey to him, hey, I know this shit ain't easy. I went through that. Because it's hard for somebody to get a message through to you who ain't been through the shit that you've been going through, right? Like, when my best friend, his mom passed away, all I could do was be there for him and console him. But I couldn't sympathize with him because my mom's still here. So when he's going through that bout of depression, when Mother's Day hits, or, you know, one of these holidays come where he used to really be with his mom and bond with his mom, and that shit comes, I don't have any words for him. All I can do is just check on him and make sure he's good. Because I didn't experience that. So when a dude that's drafted 2nd overall, Sam can't relate to him. Sam was a 5th round pick. What you gonna say to me, bro? You don't know what this is like. Don't talk to me about you trying to carry the University of North Carolina on your back and bring them to prominence. That ain't the same as doing it in the NFL. Sam Darnold could talk about being the 3rd overall pick. Marcus Mariota could talk about being a Heisman Trophy winner, which Jaden Daniels is a Heisman Trophy winner, and he could be the number 2 overall pick. Marcus Mariota can talk about being a former Heisman Trophy winner, number 2 overall pick. So this is why it's important to bring Marcus Mariota into the fold. Not for what he provides you on the field necessarily. He's quality backup. I've told you, I've had the concentrated conversation already. It's more about what he provides up here. The experience. He talked about that. Mariota said, I've been the number 2 overall pick. I've been cut. I've been the first guy on the roster. I've been the last guy on the roster. I've been traded. He said, everything that could happen in the NFL has happened to me. I've been injured. I've had to replace somebody. I've been replaced. I've been benched. So I can talk to anybody about anything because everything's happened to me. That's invaluable experience. So that's why you need a Marcus Mariota. Hope that answered your question. Big Daddy Butts. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Big Daddy Butts writes, bonjour, Sir Louie, or Louu. It would be nice if you could do a mock draft now to see what shiny new toys we would get. Can you? I do my mock drafts late. You know I hate mock drafts, man. I leave that to Rico, who, you know, put out a mock draft every week. I think Rio puts out mock draft. I leave that to everybody else. Like, everybody got their lanes. I stay in my lane. I'm not a mock draft dude. Y'all know that. So I give you the one mock draft at the end of the process, about, you know, maybe a week or 2 out from the season, maybe a month, whatever. I don't even remember when I do it normally. I'll figure it out. I'll look back at last year and the year before that to see when I did it, and I'll try to do it in that same time frame. But I usually do my mock draft. I try to at least a month out from the draft. But I probably won't even be ready to do that this year. It'll probably be like early April, which is what it usually is, now that I think about it. But me personally, the mock drafts make more sense now, though, than they did, say, a week ago, when people were putting them out like crazy 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That shit was stupid because you still have free agency. Now a mock draft makes sense to do, but I'm still going to go watch more film and get more acquainted with these players before I try to put together a mock draft, because I don't even know who the hell I would be drafting. Y'all said Cam got signed. Is that what I'm seeing? Let me see what happened. Cam Curl. Got signed by the Rams. Let's see, what kind of deal did he sign? Cam Curl deal. Cam Curl is signing with the Rams on a 2-year deal worth $13 million. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? I'm not. I told y'all what this man's market was going to be. And I told y'all there's only 2 safeties getting broken off. And I'm still waiting on the other one. We already saw Xavier McKinney get broken off. He's the only one that's been broken off. The rest of these dudes have taken pretty modest deals to this point. Okay. The market was oversaturated. So this was not a surprise. Classic supply and demand. There were way too many safeties and the demand just wasn't that high. There was enough to go around and then extras still available. So I still think Simmons is going to get broken off by somebody. Somebody going to find some money somewhere for Justin Simmons. But Cam Curl, he's not a playmaker. There's no money for a guy that's just reliable, that can do multiple things. But if you ain't taking it away, if you don't make a difference, if you just a guy, you're going to get just a guy money. That makes sense. Dudes who take it away just took $7 million deals. I watched Kevin Byard sign a 2-year, $14, $15 million deal. He's a guy that takes it away or has in his career. So Cam wasn't getting more than that. 6.5 for Cam. Sounds about right. Good for him. And maybe he'll play well in LA. Maybe he'll play well in LA. I'm rooting for him. I got nothing but love for Cam. Nothing but love. Jay Black. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay writes, Leggett, your country ass better be there at 67. I hope he's there, man. I told him, just hang in there for me, bro. Just be there in the 3rd round. And if we don't take you, then then I know they didn't want you for real. But at least give me the option. There's so many receivers in this draft. I hope he gets overlooked. I hope he gets overlooked. It's such a deep class of receivers. I hope he gets pushed back to the 3rd round. And with all these selections, we bound to take a receiver in the 3rd round. I'm convinced of it more now than ever before. Especially if they don't trade any of those 3rd rounders to go back up. I think they are going to trade up in the draft. I've made that declaration tonight. But if they don't and they have those 3 3rd rounders, I expect one of those to be spent on a wide receiver. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, how are you doing, Loue? Doing well, JB. What about yourself? Adam Mother effing Peters. To Chef P. Chef P. Take a sip to that. Swaggy P. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Swaggy P writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I was outside all the way to the end with #NHO. You definitely were one of the ones that when I was outside shivering, that game wasn't that bad. What was it? And I would look over and Swaggy would be like, "No, it was better than the last one." I was like, "Yeah." Everybody else inside looking at our goofy ass, but you stuck it out with me though. I appreciate you. You definitely was sticking out. When everybody was coming for our necks, it was me and you to the end, man. I had to go inside. I think I left you around the Dolphins game though. It was the Jets game. I went inside on the Jets game, but it was me and you to the end, man. I hung out there as long as I could, bro. I hung in there as long as I could. I appreciated you, man. You held me down for a long time. Dante Lee, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Dante Lee writes, keep doing your thing. God bless HTTC, man. I really appreciate you, Dante, man. Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciate you. And God bless to you as well, bro. God bless. Lucas, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Lucas writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Lucas? Heard you was a fellow VA native. Was wondering where at. Originally from Petersburg, then moved to South Norfolk. I'm from the 757 originally. I do not live there now, obviously. I am in the DMV area now, currently up in the Fredericksburg area. But I'm originally from Norfolk. I told a story about South Norfolk on my podcast. For those of you who know, you know about that story and what transpired one fateful night in South Norfolk. But yeah, that's all around up in that area. That's my stomping ground, man. So yeah, you heard right. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joe Rockhead, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Joe Rockhead was another one outside too, man. I don't want to forget about my guy Joe Rockhead. Joe was out there with us as well, man. So I could look to my left, I could look to my right. I had two soldiers outside with me freezing, bro. He says the free agent picks mirror coaching hires. Experience mixed with guys ready for the next level from various places, succession ready, relationships, backgrounds. Yep, you are absolutely right. You see a lot of the similarities, right? The coaching staff, guy like Daryl Tapp getting his first opportunity, right? A guy like William Gay as an assistant defensive backs coach. First opportunity to really be a coach in his league. And so he's in the mix, right? So you're seeing all of it, Ken Norton, teacher, been in the game forever, right? So you see a healthy mix. Same thing with the free agents, right? You got your Zach Ertz's and your Bobby Wagner's and your Marcus Mariota. Obviously, he's a quarterback, but still. But then you turn around and then you got the young boys, right? that coming in here that are going to get an opportunity. And so it's a healthy mix. They're more veterans, I would say. Nobody's like super young. Like we didn't bring in guys that were super young, but you're going to draft a bunch of guys that are super young, right? We went from being one of the youngest teams in the NFL. I think we were like the 10th youngest team or whatever. Somebody 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. One of the younger teams, I'll say that too. We're going to be an older team, I think, this year. We'll see how many undrafted free agents, how many priority free agents end up on the roster. But as of right now, with the guys that were already here, Terry and all those guys are nearing 30. They're not there yet, and there's still some time. They're still young, but Jonathan Allen's going to be 30 here in a bit. Terry's going to be 30 before you know it. Like these dudes are probably 28 now or whatever. So eventually, these guys, they're no spring chickens, So we'll see. It'll, like you said, it's a healthy mix. There's still the Quan Martins and the Emmanuel Forbes Juniors and Jahan Dotson. Those guys are all super young, right? Sam Cosmi's still relatively young. Those guys still exist. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chris, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, as always, really, truly do appreciate you, Chris. I didn't know in advance we would get a third for Howell. think most of us did, man. I mean, there was a report out there that was circulating about a week ago that said Washington could fetch a third. I was like, whatever, man. It's line season. Go blow that smoke somewhere else. I'm not buying it. Surprise, surprise. What do you think it would cost us to trade up from 36 to 20 pick-wise for a tackle? It looks as if 7 tackles are likely in the first round. I could look at, I don't know where I put my draft chart. I have one, though. I just got to find it. If I was smart, I either put it in my draft folder or I put it in my essentials folder. I don't think I was smart enough to put it in my essentials folder, but I might have put it in my draft folder. See if I can track it down. I probably wasn't smart enough to do that either. I mean, I can find it though. I know it ain't in this folder. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I have it anywhere. Draft chart. Nope. All right. So I'm gonna just look it up. And then I'm gonna tell you what the points are. And then I can give you a rough estimate. Jimmy Johnson draft chart. So here is the Jimmy Johnson value chart. So you said from 36, which is worth 540 points, to somewhere in the 20s. Let's just say 22. So 22 is worth 780 points, and 36 is worth 540. We got 67, 78, and 100 in the third round. So 67 is worth 255 points. You couple that with the 540, and that's 795. That exceeds what 22 is worth by 15 points. So roughly you could do that. That would suffice. It would take 36 and 67 to get to 22, roughly. You go over by 15 points, but if you really truly want a guy, you don't care about that. So that's essentially what it would cost to get to where you want to be. I think there's going to be 6 or 7, possibly as many as 8 tackles that go in the first round. I told you, tackle is one of those positions that gets pushed up, and it's one of those supply and demand positions, much like quarterback. So I can see us trading up, and that's why you got all them picks, so that you could do that. I bet you they would rather trade away 40 than 36, but I mean, you're splitting hairs at that point. You want to be closer, though, if you can. So I do want to give a quick little shout out, man. You know what? I can save it. If I do what I said I'm going to do, then I won't forget. If I don't, then I will, but we'll see. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Chris writes, hey, Lou, 2 questions. Question 1. What are your thoughts on us focusing on the second pick in the second round and on cornerback 2 and slot corner in the third round? Second question is, what are reasonable expectations for Terry and Cliff Kingsbury's offense this season and why? So I wouldn't mind if they don't do anything at corner, which I still think that it's a long shot that nothing gets done. I still believe both tackle and corner get some more assistance heading into the draft. But in the event that nothing gets done, I think corner becomes, much like tackle, becomes a much more dire need. So I would think that if you somehow find yourself making 2 selections in the second round instead of 1, if you don't trade up, it would be instead of, because remember, it was edge rusher. Remember the thought going into this process was tackle and edge rusher, because we didn't have either. Well, now we got 97 defensive ends. So we don't need a tackle defensive end anymore. So now you still need tackle. You can go corner, right? If you don't go and do anything else. So that makes a ton of sense. And then you, like you said, go nickel in the third. Or you could go nickel in the second and then go corner, boundary in the third. I think it would probably make more sense if you really truly believe that this draft is loaded with nickels, which it is. You could probably wait on and go nickel in the third. If you want a high level nickel like Mike Sandwich-Strill, which I do, you got to do that in the second round. He's probably not going to be there in the third round. But, and then as far as reasonable expectations for Terry and Cliff Kingsbury's offense, that's a great question. Because I really don't think he had like an alpha any year in Arizona at the receiver position. Even the year that they made the playoffs, I don't know if there was like a stud receiver there. Only one way to find out. Arizona Cardinals 2021 stats. Let's see who their best receiver was that year. Because I know they traded for Hollywood that next year in 2022 when they tried to pair him with Kyler. Kyler gets hurt and Cliff gets fired. So let's see. Let's look at these players. All right. So their best receiver in 2021 from a yards perspective was Christian Kirk. They also had AJ Green. Christian Kirk had 103 targets, 77 catches, 982 yards, and 5 touchdowns. AJ Green had 92 targets, 54 catches, 848 yards, and 3 scores. And then they had DeAndre Hopkins. That was the guy I was missing. He got hurt that year, though. So he was already there. They had already traded for him the year prior, I think. He got hurt that year. He only had 517. So let me go back a year. That should tell me more. The year prior, when they had him, that year when Kyler Murray was throwing up, he threw that what they call that Hail Mary against the Bills. What they ended up calling that? I forgot what they ended up calling that shit. It was crazy. I think he did that in 2020. I think. Could be wrong. Let me see when they played the Bills. Yep. It was 2020 because I remember they didn't make the playoffs that year, but I know DeAndre Hopkins snapped that year in terms of yards and stuff. So I think this might be a better. DeAndre Hopkins, 115 catches, 1,407 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So I'm not saying Terry is DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, it might look more like Christian Kirk's numbers, but Terry's a 1,000-yard receiver. So you can't have that kind of production in a Cliff Kingsbury system. I don't really know what to expect from Terry, to be honest with you. That's a great question. Last year kind of shook me at my core about Terry, not to the point where I don't think he's a number one or he's not capable of this, that, and the third, but it did make me similar to what happened with Sam. Like, I needed Terry to step up, and look, they didn't do enough to get him the ball, but there were times where me and Derek B would talk about this all the time. Sam would need Terry to make a play for him, and he didn't. Like, bro, step up, go get it, make a play, be a baller, do something. And he just did, like he did it for Heineke, right? And he just never seemed to do it for Sam. it seemed like. So I had my questions about Terry, but then when Jacoby Brissett would come in the game, Terry would look like a different guy. So I expect Terry to go over 1,000 yards. That's what he does, and be highly productive. We're going to see if he can go back to where we were before the start of last season, which was, hey, he's one of the best receivers in this division. Like, he's way down the totem pole now, right? Both the Eagles receivers, CeeDee Lamb, you know, everybody passed this dude. Like, he's fourth in the division behind the two Eagles receivers and CeeDee Lamb. Last year, we were debating if he was good enough for second with CD. It was A.J. Brown 1, and then it was like a cluster at 2 between Terry, CD, and then you could make the argument for Devontae Smith. Now, it ain't no argument. Terry's at 4. And then I want to see if he can jump back into the conversation for like the number 2 receiver in this division. Because CD's got the title now, right? AJ's took a step back. Devontae is still good. Let's see if he can get back in that discussion. Ed B, been a member for 30 months. Writes, DQ blowing up the safe hire moniker and AP Cooks. Remember, I questioned what he would do when he got here. I was like, I'm really going to be anxious to see what some of these hires look like, because I want to see what he does. Is he going to just hire a bunch of his boys like Ron did? Or is he going to actually go out here and diversify his staff? We got our answer very quickly. So it's been a lot of that going on. And like you said, Chef P is cooking up some crack right now, bro. It's been amazing to watch, especially when you've been as deprived and starved as we have. I used to always joke that we were so hungry. We would eat anything, particularly at the quarterback position. We would fall like fans would go crazy over Heineke, and then I went crazy over Sam. Some people would argue they weren't that different. I beg to differ, but that's nor here nor there, right? The bottom line is we were so starved that, you know, we would argue people up and down about players that were mid. People that still talk about Chase Young, like, bro, Chase Young is basic. Deal with it. Live with it. Live your truth. Chase Young is mid. He's a basic defensive end till proven otherwise. I kept saying he's Jadeveon. He's not Jadeveon Clowney. That's a disservice to Jadeveon Clowney right now. That's why Chase is surfing around looking for his one-year deal. Tennessee and New Orleans. He'll probably land in New Orleans. That's my guess. They could use a guy like Chase Young. Titans could use him too. But he'll sign a one-year deal. I'm excited about what's being done. I really, truly am. Ramallah Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Once again, thank you for the super chat, Ramallah Levy. CJ Shoots Photo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, are we waiting to sign a tackle? I guess I assumed we get one vet in free agency and one in the draft. I trust AP, but my anxiety is still high as we wait. Yeah, don't stress yourself out thinking about that. Just look at what's been done in the first 4 days and just ask yourself this question. And I've said this, and look, I understand in not giving people the benefit of the doubt when they haven't earned it. He was one of the most sought after GM candidates for the last 2 years. And what he's done in the first 4 days should have built up enough equity with you to say, AP will figure it out. Chef P, he'll chef up something. I'm not worried about it. That's how I'm going about it. They'll figure it out. Not tripping. I still think they're going to get a veteran, but I don't know if that precludes us from getting 2 in the draft still. Like you could get to a swing tackle in free agency and then go get 2 in the draft. I think that is very likely still. Even if they got 1 in free agency, I wouldn't be shocked if they still drafted 2 tackles. Ramala Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. I wonder if you're trying to say something or you're just trying to support. Either way, I appreciate you. Ramala Levy. Worn out boots. Bucky. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Who writes, make sense of Maye at 2 and how you see it going. I've already made sense of Maye at 2 multiple times. You can go back in the archives and watch that. I did a quarterback video, 3 weeks ago? A live stream where it was nothing. It was the quarterback edition. You can't miss it. Go check it out. I give you the reason why I think Drake Maye is the best quarterback after Caleb Williams in this draft. I gave you my rankings and I gave you why. So, and I've already gone through the reasons why I think he's going to be the pick here at number 2 tonight, kind of connecting the dots. So, and we'll see, plenty of time between now and we're going to hear so many things come out and, oh my God. And if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You'll sway wherever the wind is blowing, right? And it's going to be a lot of wind during the draft season. When you're this high in the draft and you're taking a quarterback, there's going to be so much that comes out about these guys. I mean, hell, when we were at the combine, Jaden Daniels didn't stay all the way through. Like, it's going to be little shit like that that's going to turn into something big for no reason. Devin Hester was talking with Kay Adams about Caleb Williams, and he said that it's just too much distractions around him right now. Like, the block is too hot. He was like, I wouldn't deal with it. I wouldn't mess with him. That became a thing, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of that shit going on. You choose to indulge in what you choose to indulge in. I know what I'm steering clear of. I don't want no parts of the foolishness. I believe what I believe, and nobody's going to be able to tell me otherwise. And I've already made it abundantly clear that all 3 of the quarterbacks at the top of the draft are fine by me. So you could try to sell me on Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, or Jaden Daniels. I'm listening, but I've already told you what my list is. Ain't nothing you gonna tell me that's gonna change my list. I watched with my own eyes and I came up with my list. So you can tell me till your face turns blue. Well, this, that, no, these advanced statistics say this. Okay, that's cool. I hear you. That's what's up. My list is what it is, though. Still, I've done the work, so I feel comfortable with how I feel. Ramala Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Once again, thank you for the support, Ramala Levy. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, excuse me. Who writes, Lions season disclaimer. Louu, Sam Howell gone with any quarterback at 2. I'm confused, Derek B. Let me read this again and see if I can make sense of it. Lions season disclaimer, Louu, period. Separate SH, which I'm assuming is Sam Howell, gone with any QB at 2. Yes. Okay, I get it now. Yes, he would have been gone at any with any quarterback. Yeah, you could say that. Because I needed to fit my narrative that I'm trying to push. I'm telling you that I think they moved on from him. And I don't think this is a standalone event, right? Whether or not it was Jaden Daniels or it was Drake Maye, they were going to trade him if they were going to get a 3rd round pick, which they did. They were going to trade him anyway. So whom they draft doesn't matter. I said that because it's Drake Maye, they facilitated the trade. The likelihood is, and I said this already, so I kind of contradicted myself, but I said this already, they're going to trade him anyway. I think when Adam Peters got this job, he saw value in Sam Howell, not as a quarterback here, but somewhere else. He looked at him and he said, I see trade value. I see draft assets. So yes, in theory, again, remember what the lying season moniker is. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man Louie T. Again, I told you this is my theory, right? I think it had something to do also with, if we're taking Drake Maye, Sam definitely can't be here. Didn't really matter who the quarterback was. Sam wasn't going to be here, especially if they were getting a 3rd round pick. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The Big Bad Wolf Beatty. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Big Bad Wolf Beatty writes, how is Kirk Cousins still robbing these people? You know, I got a different perspective on Kirk. So you can't ask me that. I don't feel like most people about Kirk. I actually think he's a good quarterback. Now, should he have made the amount of money that he's made to this point of his career? Hell no. But that doesn't matter. This is a league where if you can play, you get paid. Kirk Cousins can play. And I saw Dan Patrick say that Kirk Cousins in Minnesota was a D-. That's bullshit. Because Kirk Cousins signed up in Minnesota to be the guy that put him over the top. They played defense before he got there. Their defense fell the hell apart. It's, you know, one of the things that has really been frustrating about Kirk Cousins' career is he's never played with a team that actually had a competent defense. Never. If you look at his career and you look at where the defenses on the teams he played, where they ranked and the points given up per game, et cetera, you'll be probably – I haven't done this. And I could be wrong, and I could be talking out of the side of my neck. But I bet you if you go look, I know the defenses in Washington weren't worth a damn. I know that. We all know that for a fact. But the defenses in Minnesota haven't been worth a damn either. And the one time they did have a quality defense, he won a playoff game. I don't know. I just think if you can win with Kirk, but look, man, game recognized game, and Kirk Cousins' ability to make money, he got the juice, man. He got the juice. The Big Bad Wolf Beatty. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Kirk is the Nick Cage of the NFL. Don't do my man Kirk like that, man. Do not do my man Kirk like that. You got to put some more respect on his name than that. That's disrespectful. For real. At least let him be the Sam L. Not Nick Cage, bro. Netzel's Toy 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, as a Seahawks fan who appreciates your content, you're a great resource, especially when I am trying to up my knowledge of the game. Gotta ask, where are the Seahawks? What are the Seahawks, getting and how? Oh, man, that's a loaded question. Depending on who you ask, you ain't getting a damn thing. But you asking me, I'm telling you, you're getting a hell of a competitor. One, you're getting a tough-ass quarterback, a dude that's tough as nails. And when he is protected, he has time, a guy that can be surgical with the football. He's a better athlete than he's given credit for. He can and will use his legs when necessary. But you have to let him be him. Yes, he holds on to the ball too long sometimes. Trying to make a play. That's his thing. He always wants to make a play. And if you're a Seahawks fan, you watched him play against your team last year and you saw him make off-schedule plays, including the first touchdown of the game, like 4 plays in, where he extended a play, rolled out to his left, saw his running back streaking up the sideline, hit him in stride for a touchdown, right? That's who he can be. The touchdown that tied the game. He's standing back there in the pocket forever because he's holding on to the ball. That's what he does. But then he finds De'Ami Brown with a perfectly placed ball in between like 3 Seahawk defenders. He goes up, catches it, hits the ground running, and scores a touchdown. Sam took us down the field methodically on that drive and put us in a position to try to win. We should have gone for 2. I'll die on that hill. I know they still had a chance to possess the football. I don't give a shit. I would have gone for 2. They didn't. We tied the game. The defense promptly gives up a field goal 37 seconds later, it felt like, and you guys won the game. He's a guy that I think you can win with in this league. And with the weapons that you will provide him with, a run game, a stout offensive line, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, I think he could really flourish there. I really do. And there's a reason your GM, John Snyder, wanted him. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You're going to like him a lot. You're going to like him a lot. And I think he's going to grow from the experiences this year. That's my hope. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either he's going to grow from what happened this year, or it's going to drastically change who he is as a quarterback, and we may never see the weeks 1 through 10 Sam Howell again. And he might just turn into a journeyman backup quarterback. We'll see. I think he's more than that. Rail Goated. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, calling it now, we're trading for Greg Newsome. He's a dog. I'd love it. I don't know what's going on with him in the Browns, if that's a real thing. He's got to be. Greg Newsome was a first-round pick, so he's got the 5th-year option. I only think he's going into year 3, if I'm not mistaken. So why would they trade him? That doesn't make any sense. I could be wrong, and he could be going into year 4, and they might have to pick up the 5th-year option. And look, you got to make some tough decisions when Deshaun Watson is eating up $63 million of cap space. You got to start making decisions, and you can't pay everybody. And if he's going into year 4, then yeah, you got a decision to make, and you could trade him. But if he's going into year 3, then there's no reason to trade him. You don't have to do anything yet. You can wait till next year to move him. So we'll see. Diddy 56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, not sure it was a good thing to get rid of Sam because I thought he had tremendous upside in a weekly role. Later, Sam. I mean, he wasn't going to be the guy here. So there was, like, you could make a case for him sticking around. You never know what was going to happen with the guy at number 2 overall. And, Sam could still be a guy you could go back to, a la Drew Brees, with the Chargers when they drafted Phillip Rivers. Well, they traded for Phillip Rivers. They drafted Eli Manning. He vowed not to play for them. So they traded with the Giants for for Phillip Rivers, but they still had Drew Brees, and Brees ended up kicking ass and keeping Phillip Rivers at bay until he hurt his elbow. But they weren't going to re-sign him. He was always going to hit free agency, and they were always going to go to Phillip Rivers. And that's the thing you got to remember and understand is that no matter what happened with Sam, some people are like, well, if they have a competition, Sam's going to beat him out. That's fine. But always remember, at some point, that rookie, that guy you spent the number 2, he's going to get a chance. Trey Lance got a chance. in San Francisco, even though they had Jimmy Garoppolo. Aaron Rodgers got a chance in Green Bay, even though they had Brett Favre. Jordan Love got a chance in Green Bay, even though they had Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers was coming off of 2 MVP seasons in a row. The third season, obviously, that last season wasn't an MVP season, and Rodgers was a little banged up, but he could have stayed in Green Bay. But they was like, nah, we got to figure out what's going on with Jordan Love. That guy is eventually going to get a chance to play. So whatever happens, Sam wasn't going to be the quarterback here. So get something for him if you can. I just was shocked. The reason I didn't think he would get traded now is because I didn't think the value was going to be there now. I was wrong, clearly, about that. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North writes, first of all, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, King of the North, writes, what I love about B-Wag is that he brings real leadership to this locker room. We had weak leadership from the players last season. Also, Sam is better than Mariota, but I don't hate the trade. Gonna trust the process. It ain't about being better than Mariota. I don't think any of us would debate that. I think even the most staunch Sam hater would say he's better than Mariota at this point of his career. And there's way more upside. It was never about being better. It's about the veteran leadership and the veteran being able to school the young quarterback. And I've already gone through that, so I don't need to do that again. But you're right. We had weak leadership last year. And I think a lot of that weak leadership stemmed from the leaders not believing in the leadership above them, the direction that they were being led in. It's hard for leaders to lead when they're being led astray, right? The offense felt like Eric Bieniemy was leading them astray. The defense felt like Jack Del Rio was leading them astray. The team as a whole felt like Ron was leading them astray. And then to take it a step further, the team didn't respect Ron like they did before because they felt like Eric Bieniemy came in and took over the whole squad. And he won't shit. So it's hard to lead when you questioning the people that are supposed to be in charge. It starts at the top. We don't have to worry about that this year because we got real adults in the building. Once again, we have real grown-ups in the building that'll be leading the charge, and it's going to be easy to lead because they'll lead by example. Hunter, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Hunter writes, and there, Curl, he's signing with the Rams, and I appreciate you, Hunter, for telling us 2 years, $13 million for Cam Curl, 6.5 per, essentially. I didn't get to see how much the guarantees were, but I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Lou Xavier Leggett. Hell yes. Hell yes. Sign me up. King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, King of the North, writes, I see AP's vision here. Lots of Band-Aid, 1-year contracts to fill holes until draft picks develop into starters. Got to draft well and develop players to make all of this work, but I have faith we will, enjoying the ride. That's exactly how this works. A lot of people fail to understand. When I was telling y'all a lot of 1-year deals, a lot of 2-year deals coming down the pipeline, this is how a rebuild happens. You're turning over the roster. So you're not going to sign a bunch of guys to 3-year deals. That's not how a rebuild works, because it's not about quality as much as it is quantity. You are hoping in that quantity, you land a few quality pieces, which is what Frankie Louu and Dorrance Armstrong are supposed to be. You're hoping Jeremy Chin, develops in this scheme, and then you look at each other, Quinn looks at him and he looks at Quinn and says, bro, we can't break this up. We got to run this back. And then he gets the 3-year deal next year. But that's what you're hoping, right? That's what this is supposed to be. Cleveland Farrell's not going to be here past next season. More likely than not. I mean, he might play well and they may bring him back, again, to be on a 1-year deal or maybe sign him to a 2-year deal. But more likely than not, he's not going to be here next year. Dante Fowler Jr. may or may not. We'll see. I mean, he's a Dan Quinn favorite, so he may be back on another one-year deal next year. But, you're hoping Tyler Biotish and Nick Allegretti, these guys end up being core players for you, right? But you can't be assured of that. But the goal is to have guys like Bobby Wagner be a placeholder. Potentially Jeremy Chin be a placeholder. You're hoping that he's actually here longer, right? But a guy like Zach Ertz to be a placeholder. A guy like both Cleveland Farrell, F.A. Obata, or all three of them really, Dante Fowler Jr., maybe to a lesser extent Dante Fowler Jr., but definitely Cleveland Farrell and F.A. Obata placeholders. Y'all keep the seat warm until these young boys develop, till we get the young boys in here that we feel like can be, core players, guys that are core backups or even eventually starters, whatever the case may be. Jamin Davis might not be here next year. Other guys that are under contract like De'Ami Brown may not be here next year. They're placeholders. This is how you do it, though. Band-Aid solution until you can finally do surgery. Coach Kev, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Coach Kev writes, this might be the most explosive offense I've seen since Vinny was cutting the checks. I think JD is a lock at 2 after all of this. What makes you say that, Coach Kev? What makes you say he's a lock? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm going the opposite direction, clearly. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Feel like it's been a little while, Fats. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I usually agree with Kevin Sheehan, but he compares this year's free agency to 2020 free agency class. Ain't no way. 2020 class had much lower ceiling players, unlikes, or unknowns. That's what you switched it to, unknowns here. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. So let's address that. So because my guy King of the North sent me essentially what Kevin Sheehan was saying. I was going to read that, and I think I'm going to react to that in a separate video. So I don't know if I will, really dive into it tonight. I was saving that, I think, for a video over the weekend just to give y'all a little something in case nothing happened. But shit, with the way our free agency going, there may be some action over the weekend anyway. But I know I'll be out of the office on Saturday, so I won't be able to do anything, even if something happens. But I may try to leave y'all a little something anyway. But he told me, because I haven't listened to the Kevin Sheehan Show podcast, or I never listened to him on the radio. It was always his podcast that I would listen to. I lied. I used to listen to him on the radio a long time ago. But once he got his podcast, that's where I was at. But of course, I started on the radio. That's how I knew about the podcast and went with him when he was no longer at Team 980. But I haven't listened to him in like 2 years, and it's been a while. And and Kevin's a pretty knowledgeable guy, and I generally, like you said, agree with a lot of his takes. We don't always see eye to eye, but for the most part, he's a rational guy, and I get where he's coming from, even when I don't agree with him. But when King of the North sent me that same thing that you're talking about, I couldn't have disagreed with it more. But I'll get into that at a later date and time. But I agree with you, Fat American. And for all of the reasons you just said, and then some. NGA, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, thoughts on grabbing a veteran receiver to help be more of a mentor? Terry can't do it all by himself. Nah, you don't need a veteran for that. Terry's the veteran that you need right there, right? I think you need a rookie. You need another infusion of young talent, and I think some size is what I would be looking for. And it'd be nice if you can get size and speed, right? So I think there's enough, veterans, not just Terry, but, even looking at Zach Ertz and, some of the other guys on the offense, Austin Eckler, it's enough. And I get it. You're just specifically talking receivers, but I think it's enough to where Jamison Crowder's there too, right? They brought him back. It's enough veterans in that room where you don't need to go get another veteran. You just re-sign Jamison Crowder as a veteran in that room. the youth is where it's at, because you're going to lose Diami more likely than not next year. Even though, and I say lose him loosely, because what has Diami done for it to have any kind of impact? But still, we feel much better going into the season knowing that Diami's another option, even if it's the third or fourth option, is better than not having a third or fourth option, with Diami Brown. But you still need to continue to replenish that position, because it needs more talent. Point blank, end of discussion, right? So I don't disagree about adding more talent, but I do disagree about adding it via the free agency route. Abel Ambrosio, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Abel Ambrosio writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Keenan Allen to Chicago and Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. So I saw the Keenan Allen to the Bears when I opened up my phone to check about Cam Curl. I did not see Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs, however. That's an interesting spot for him. Again, the rich get richer. They got Irv Smith Jr. That's a low-key, sneaky good signing. I mean, I'm interested to see what kind of money he got, because he's going to replace MVS. He's way better than MVS, and he's just as fast as MVS. They could do some things with him. Boy, so that's a really good signing. I'm gonna just say that. Yikes. Keenan Allen to Chicago. I think I saw like a 4th round pick or something like that. That's interesting. I thought after they made all the moves, the Chargers I'm speaking of, to get under the cap, I thought they were going to just chill. Now you moved on from both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. But again, remember, this is a deep draft, and you know what that says, right? You know what that means. The Chargers, if they don't trade out of that 5 hole I think they're in, they don't trade out of the 5 spot. Wide receiver, here we come. Because I can tell you this right now, Quentin Johnston is not it. He is not it. So if you just got rid of your top 2 receivers, that means you drafting a receiver. And it's either Roma Dunze or it's going to be your boy from LSU. So Justin Herbert will be getting some help. That's what that says to me. Yikes. Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. The rich get richer. Anyway, I said I was going to clean this up on the back end, so let me do this. And I want to start by I want to bring this into focus real quick. One of the ways that I like to kind of gauge what kind of player we're getting is when other fans of the teams where the player came from kind of gives you some insight as to how they feel. Like, I can tell you this right now, when we first got, matter of fact, it was on the live show, when we first got Frankie Louu. Remember Nervash came in here, Panthers fan, and he said, hey man, Frankie Louu, y'all gonna love him. Plays hard, gritty player, can do a lot of things, get after the quarterback, all that good stuff. And he was like, Panthers fans are lamenting his loss way more than Brian Burns. That's how much love they had for Frankie Louu in Carolina. So you know you're getting a real one when you hear that, right? Listen to what this person said when we got Nick Allegretti. Now, again, I'm cautious with Nick Allegretti because he has never started in this league before. That's why he came to Washington, and we're going to talk about him first, because of all the guys that spoke, he was the most impressive, was Nick Allegretti, which is why his press conference was the longest of all the players that spoke. Most of them were very short because guys ain't have a lot to say. The two longest pressers was Nick Allegretti and Brandon McManus, the kicker, because they both didn't mind talking, right? When you talk more, there's more questions, because the more you say, the more they then ask you a question based off of one of your answers. Oh, so you kicked at RFK Stadium, yada, yada. So now they're going to ask you a question about that. They didn't know that, so now they're going to ask you about it, right? Drum Beat Deck Mike, 9088, wrote, Allegretti should be solid for you guys. Hated to see him leave. He was the backup center also, and I didn't know that until Allegretti said it at his presser today that he played all three interior positions. He said, tough dude. Played the Super Bowl, as we know, with a torn UCL in his elbow. Said it popped right before the 2-minute warning of the first half, which he told the story at this presser. He says, I don't think he missed a single snap, and I don't think he gave up a sack either. So one thing I can say about Allegretti is he is a tough SOB. He is a tough SOB. And he said the biggest attribute that he brings to the table is his toughness. He's like, look, I'd love to tell you that I'm some kind of 6'6", 6'7", athletically gifted offensive lineman, but that ain't who I am. But what I am is a dude that's going to out-physical you, out-tough you, and I'm going to find a way to get the job done. And I was very impressed with him because remember I said when he got the job, when he got the contract, I said, that's Wes Schweitzer money. That feels like a Wes Schweitzer deal. And he strikes me as a Wes Schweitzer type of dude, right? Could play all three positions, was the backup center and both guard positions in Kansas City. And he really wasn't, the starter, which Wes Schweitzer really wasn't the starter in Atlanta either. So Schweitzer came to Washington looking for an opportunity to start. Same thing with Nick Allegretti. And he said, I don't want them to give me anything. When my agent talked to them, and then I had a chance to talk with them, the understanding that we all had was I'm not being given anything. I'm coming in here to compete. I view myself as a guy that is ready to start in this league, but I don't want them to give me a starting job. I took this opportunity, and when I talk about why guys go to certain places, his reason was reason 4 that I gave you. Opportunity, right? He's like, I looked at Washington's roster and I said, they only got Sam Cosmi. They don't have a center and they don't have a left guard. He said, well, they signed Tyler Biadasz at center, but they still got an opening at left guard. I plan on inserting myself right there. That's where I want to go because I'm going to have a chance to compete for a vacant left guard position. There aren't many teams in the league that you go to and they don't have a player at that position. We don't. So he's going to have a chance to start there. So I loved his answers. I loved his personality. He's going to fit in hand in glove here with this group. And he talked about O-line Bobby Johnson and the things that he had heard about him. So there's that. I'll just run through these quickly. Dorrance Armstrong didn't have a lot to say. He pretty much said, I'm here because of Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. They care about their players, and we established a relationship, and that's pretty much why I'm here. And he's like, my versatility, I feel like I can do a lot of the things I did in Dallas and so forth, which he kicked inside on obvious passing downs and things of that nature. We heard from Brandon McManus. He talked a lot, but I loved he had a little bit of swag. He was like, bro, I know a lot of people looking at my statistics and they want to talk shit, but he's like, understand a lot of my misses, because I was critical of his misses from 50 plus. He's like, a lot of my misses be like 58, 60, 63, because I got the leg for it. So they'll trot me out there from 60. He even said 70. That probably was in Denver, though. Like that, they weren't trotting him out in Jacksonville for a 70-yard field goal. But in Denver, at Mile High, in that altitude, he probably got out there for a 70-yard field goal before. Of course, he didn't make it, but he said a lot of my misses are those long misses. So he's like, the percentage, plus 50 isn't as great because I'm out here trying 58, 59, 60, 61 yarders. But he like, look at my percentage under 50 though. And I told you you're gonna kick more of those than you do over 50. And I'm really interested in what you do in the money distance, which is 40 to 49, because that's where the bulk of your kicks are gonna come from. And he was like, bro, just you know my steez. Check my record. Let the record reflect what I am. I said, all right, I feel you. And he talked about the kickoff rule, the new kickoff rule potentially. And he said, I'm gonna give us an advantage there too, because most kickers back up 7 to 10 yards and kick it off. I back up 3 yards and kick it off. So you don't know what direction I'm gonna kick the ball in. So it's hard for you to get a read on where to go. So I might give us an advantage there too. I'm just like, hey, that sounds good, Brandon, but just kick the bitch out of the back of the end zone. You got to worry about none of that. But I like Brandon McManus after listening to him talk. Tyler Ott, the long snapper, pretty much was like, me and Tress go way back. And it was funny because I didn't even think about it this way. He said, we all 33 years old. So we all been in the league. We all veterans. Brandon McManus is 33. Tress Way is 33. Tyler Ott is 33. So he's like, you know, it's a veteran group. And he said, no disrespect to anybody that was here, but I'm trying to make it so that you don't worry about what happens on 4th down. I said, my guy, give me some. That's all I want to hear. That's music to my ears. I don't want to see you again after this. So, and he talked about the relationship he has with L to the Izzo, the special teams coordinator. So that was something else that he brought up. And we heard from Jeremy Chin, who pretty much talked about why he's here. He's like, yo, I'm here because of Dan Quinn. Like, I ain't even gonna hold you, bro. I loved what he did in Seattle, even more so in Dallas. They looking for a dude to run and hit. I'm a run and hit player. Self-explanatory why I'm here. And they tried to bring up last year, and he was like, nah, I want to talk about this year. I like him. I like him a lot. And he talked about his relationship with Frankie Louu. And Steve Atwater is his, I want to say it's either his uncle or his cousin. So, you know, there's a relationship there. People always ask him about that. You could tell he probably get that question all the time. But all in all, he's like, yeah, I'm looking for an opportunity. And I think they're going to give me, they asked him what his strengths were. And he said, look, I can do everything, but I'm really at my best down around the line of scrimmage. And he used to play linebacker, and he talked about that and how that gives him an advantage in run fits and knowing where to be and how to play runs and things of that nature. So he's going to fit hand in glove in this defense for Dan Quinn. Then there was Frankie Louu. Frankie Louu talked, and he's really reserved, right? You know, really reserved dude. And you know what I'm realizing is a lot of these Polynesian guys aren't really, you know, rah-rah guys. I mean, when the lights turn on, they turn up. But, you know, behind the scenes, they just quiet guys. Like, that's Marcus Mariota too. That's Manti Te'o too. Like, a lot of these dudes that I've seen that come from that background are really not, you know, they don't have a whole hell of a lot to say. But they let their actions do the talking for them. But he pretty much is like, look, I'm grit. I'm toughness, tenacity. I play hard. I can do a lot of different things. And again, another guy that was like, I'm here because of Dan Quinn and what he brings to the table and what I think I can do in his defensive scheme, essentially. So he's like, I did what I thought was best for my family. So that also means money was involved too. But and he also brought up Adam Peters as well. Let's see. Marcus Mariota spoke. I already kind of talked about what he had to say about his experiences and what he can bring to the table. So he's been around the block several times. This is not his first rodeo. He knows what he did the same thing in Philadelphia last year. He was going into a situation where he knew he wasn't going to be the guy, except Hurts was more established. That's the only difference. But I wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if this is Mariota's first go round as the mentor to a young quarterback, though, because there was nobody in Atlanta when he went there. He was in Vegas with Derek Carr, so that wasn't the type of situation. He was in Tennessee, but they had Ryan Tannehill, who took his job, and then he left. And then he was in Philly last year. So I don't think he's ever been in this particular role. So that's going to be interesting, because I didn't think about it from that perspective about I didn't think about it from that perspective where he's never done this, but I don't think he talked about not shying away from the role and really being a big help to whomever, they select, if they select somebody. He was really careful with what he said. I like that too. I was very appreciative of him choosing his words wisely, like not saying, because he doesn't know, but he knows they're going to take a quarterback at 2. I mean, who we kidding? But anyway, who else did we hear from? We heard from Anthony Pickett. Is that his name? Am I tripping? Pittman, excuse me, Anthony Pittman. And he just talked about being a special teamer and what special teams means to him. And this is his first time playing outside of Detroit. He went to Fort Wayne State, which is in Detroit. Then he said Washington, Detroit, and it was one more team, the Saints, all called him about becoming a priority free agent. And for him, it was a no-brainer to go to Detroit because that's all he knew. So he stayed home essentially, and then the rest is history. He's been with the Lions this whole time, carved out a niche for himself in the league as a special teams player, and he's getting an opportunity to do the same here in Washington. And he said that he would like to increase his role on defense, but that ain't what he's being brought here to do. He's being brought here to be a special teams dynamo. And if he's as good as they say he is, if he's as good as advertised, with bringing back All-Pro Revo and adding this dude to the mix, we got all we need to be dominant on special teams. And with Larry Izzo coming on board and kind of cleaning house special teams wise, Sanford Tress way. I think that would do it. Let's see. Mariota, Allegretti, Louu, Chin, McManus, Ott. We heard from, I already talked about Ertz a while back. Mariota, if I didn't already say him. Don't think I'm missing anybody. Pittman. We didn't hear, Dorrance Armstrong. I think that's it, because we didn't hear from Bobby Wagner. We didn't hear from Tyler Biadasz. We didn't hear from Cleveland Farrell or Dante Fowler Jr. So I think that's about right. Vincent Coe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Vincent Coe writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, can you tell me about Tyrell Dotson, linebacker we signed? So I can tell you a little bit, but if you really want to hear me talk about Tyrell Dotson a little bit more, I did a linebackers breakdown on my live stream where I did a comprehensive look at free agency for the Commanders. And I went through every position with a fine-tooth comb, and Tyrell Dotson was one of those guys. Now, he stepped in. I'll just give you a quick, brief synopsis. He stepped in last year at the linebacker position when the Bills were ravaged by injuries, and he played well for them. He's undersized. He's only like 6 feet, but he's physical. He's more of a first and second down type of downhill thumper kind of guy. Not necessarily the best in coverage, but if you're looking for a guy to come down, hit somebody, be physical, fill gaps, Tyrell Dotson can do it, and he can do it at a pretty high clip. So that's the short version. If you want a longer version, age, all of that good stuff, go to that video. Vincent Coe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Love the Sam Howell trade, by the way. You should. I think it's a win-win for both teams because you're getting a quarterback that at a bare minimum gives you a quality backup option, but also a guy that could potentially start for you. The whole Geno Smith situation this offseason with the money, it felt real trade-ish, like they were willing to trade Geno. If somebody came at them with an offer, right? This gives you this puts you in a position to have a contingency plan in place in the event that an offer comes up for Geno. Let's say somebody goes down in camp and some team says, hey, look, and you've been impressed with Sam all offseason, and you've already watched him. You watched that game when we played y'all last year, and you saw what Sam Howell did. So your exposure probably isn't as extensive as us Commanders fans, but you watched him in that game and you walked away saying, hey, man, they might have something. So he can play. And with the weapons that you have and the situation that you got going on in Seattle, I think that's a great spot for him. I'm excited. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy. CD OG Triple OG. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Louu, Chauncey, this free agency period, wow. Adam Peters has been a godsend. Oh, celebrating 70 years young this Saturday. Man, happy born day, man. Congratulations on the big 7-0. Everybody in the comment section, if you're out there, show some love to the OG of the MOBB, Mr. Chauncey Davis himself. Show some birthday love, some early birthday love to one of our best and longest surviving members of the MOBB, I should say, because he's seen it all as a fan of this team. He's seen the early stages of this team turning it around, probably with George Allen. And then he saw the glory years with Joe Gibbs. And then he's seen the rest of this foolishness that we've all seen. So, wow, 70 years, man. What a blessing. What a blessing that is indeed, man. That is awesome. So happy born day, man. Happy born day. 70 years young. I pray that I get to see 70 of them things, man. And in the event that we don't speak before your 70th, cheers to many, many, many more on the right side of the dirt, man. Great and great grandkids already running through the house, dogs barking, wife tickled pink. Life is good, man. That's what I want. I want to travel, you know. I want to see the world. I want to set myself up and you know, be in a position where we can enjoy life and the fruits of our labor. You bust your butt at these times now to set yourself up so that on the back end, you're not miserable, right? You're not struggling. I don't want to be at Walmart as a greeter at 75. I want to be enjoying life, right? I know some people, though, that they can't sit down. Like, working is what keeps them going. I knew a dude in my past life that was a vendor slinging these heavy 40-pound bags of grass seed and fertilizer. And I'm like, Mr. Brown, you ain't got to do this. And, you know, we would talk all the time, and he worked for one of the competitors. And we would talk, and this man got money. Like, he told me what he used to do. I'm like, bro, he's like, y'all don't need to do this, man. Then why are you doing this? He's like, I can't sit down. I go home, my wife gonna nag me. I can't sit down, man. I got to be doing something. And I'm like, hey, okay, to each its own. I understand. I don't but I do. I get it. So sounds like you got a good setup, man. Got the grands, the great grands, the dogs. You got your wife, your partner in crime through this thing you call life, doing it with you, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. Enjoy your 70th. I hope that you are surrounded by those you love. You get celebrated the way that you should. That's a big milestone. And then that there's many, many more of these to come. Congratulations. Spence Collis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, just feels great to be a real team again. We're in the stages of becoming that. This what's happening right now. You can't say a real team. We're a real organization. That's where we start. When I hear the phrase team, I'm thinking about play on the field. Right now, we're a real organization. We're a real outfit. We look like we belong with the other 32 franchise or 31 franchises in the league. Now we'll figure out if we're a real team when the games start to matter and we start taking score and tallying in the left and right hand column. That's when we'll find out if we're a real team or not. We're a real organization. That's where it starts. You could argue with semantics, but when I hear the word team, when somebody go, hey, who your favorite team? You say the name of your team, but they thinking about the on the field product, right? When somebody says something about an organization, you're talking about the entire structure, the front office, the coaching staff. That's what I think about when I hear organization. When I hear team, I'm thinking about play on the field. We ain't there yet. But again, it's semantics. I know what you meant. And yes, it feels good. Feels good to be having these conversations about making shrewd moves, making a great trade, getting another asset in the top 100 in terms of picks, providing you with even more ammunition should you want to move up, whether it's into the first again, in the second move up, whatever the case, move up in the third, if so be it. We got options. That's all you can ask for. We got options. Plenty of them. So that's going to do it for yours truly. Me, your man, Louie T, here on the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys, have a good one. Unless something massive happens, you shouldn't see me tomorrow. I don't expect anything. Generally, things don't happen on Fridays. I said that, I think it was last Friday, and they cut like 3 dudes. So what the hell do I know? Or 2 Fridays ago, I think it was the combine. They were at the combine, literally, and they cut like 3 dudes. So what the hell do I know? But generally speaking, this is a unique set of circumstances because we're talking about free agency. Anything could happen. But I don't expect anything major to happen, but I say that, and then tomorrow we sign a corner and a tackle, or tomorrow we sign a corner, or tomorrow we sign a tackle. So we'll just see. I didn't expect Sam Howell to get traded today, and he did. So there's that. But whatever the case may be, I'm going to try to crank out a podcast, but don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. In any event, you guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button on the way out, please, and thank you. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. God bless, and good night.